Hey, everybody, we're going live early. Something's happening in court. I can't find the stream. Let me do it this way. Let me just pick something. Okay, got the court feed. I was expecting this. Hopefully everything's working okay. Something's happening that was unplanned. I don't even know if my streaming is working. All right, they were waiting for Baldwin to come in. Let me boost the volume. Okay, that's boosted. I wonder what's going on. What the heck is going on? Exciting stuff. Did Rumble start?
Sure.
Carrie Morrissey's got some stuff to talk about. I was going to go live in 10 minutes to talk about the jury instructions, but this will work too, I guess.
Which one do you want to start with? You want to start with the 21st?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This dialogue here that takes place between pages 2 and 5.
No jury in the courtroom.
You have heard the defense attorneys on appropriate questioning of the witnesses, and also during opening statements talk about how upset Mr. Baldwin was, that he was upset, that he was panicked, that he was ashen. He was even ashen in color. What pages 2 through 5 demonstrate, and I want to tell you, let me make one correction. Sure.
The highlighted is the portion that you want redacted.
That is correct.
Okay, well, I only see, got the wrong one in front of me. Okay, all right, sorry, I transposed them. Okay, go ahead.
And let me find this part. Hang on just a second.
Thank you.
They may be talking about redacting some video.
Okay, so if I to help make my point, if we go down to the last paragraph of page 4, you'll see where Mr. Baldwin is speaking to someone on the phone, and he says, and just spend the time here, and they're going to do what they've got to deal with. He's talking about, I think, investigators and also insurance investigators, and deal with what they've got to deal with. And we shouldn't let will go have, it'll work, and will go. And I believe what he says, and I can play it if you need me to, because you can actually hear it on the audio, even though the transcript says indiscernible. We'll go have a good time. So these are not, at this point in time when Mr. Baldwin is making this statement, he's at the police station. He does not know that Ms. Hutchins has passed, but he knows that she's been critically injured, and she's so injured that she's been taken away in a helicopter. And if the defense hasn't spent all of this time saying how panicked and upset he was, I'm not sure that it would be relevant, but he is actually planning basically a vacation, and he tells his family, still come to New Mexico, we'll have a good time. So this is obviously information that directly contradicts what the defense has argued.
Ouch.
And if it would help the court to see his demeanor and hear what he actually says, his family was coming to New Mexico the following day because he had a bit part for his daughter in the movie. So his wife and all of his children were coming the following day, and he is telling at one point, I think he's speaking to his wife, and he has her on FaceTime so we can actually hear her. We can hear her responses. And then he's speaking to another person who sounds like some sort of a family assistant or a nanny or someone like that. And he is explaining that he wants that person to try to convince his wife to still come to New Mexico because they can't get their money back for the plane tickets, and they'd like to go ahead and have a good time.
Where's the thing about the plane tickets? I didn't read that.
So here's where he says it. There's a part here where he says they're not going to give us our money back.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
That's what he's referring to.
Okay.
So
are you talking about lines 19 through 25 on page 4? You object to the redaction on just this portion?
On what page? I'm sorry.
Well, you said 2 to 5, and then you pointed out a particular portion within 2 to 5.
Overall, my position is this is the defendant's statement, and it comes in, and I don't see a reason that it stays out. And the reason specifically that a lot of this conversation comes in is because of the defense statements about his state of mind, and this directly contradicts those.
All right, you're going to come back up here.
Yes, sir.
No?
Do you want me to stay?
Yeah, I want you to go over there.
Can I leave these here? Or? Okay.
Heather LeBlanc for the defense.
So, Your Honor, first, what we have within this section that we're going to be discussing right now is we have also some additional hearsay. So we're looking at not only Mr. Baldwin's statements, but it also includes statements from the female speaker who would be his wife. And then and you see female speaker 1, there's also female speaker 2. So there's additional hearsay aside from, again, the statements that we're talking about with respect to Mr. Baldwin. In addition, when we're looking at whether or not this is admissible, the court has to engage in a balancing test as to what the probative value actually is. The court has already indicated and ruled, in fact, at the motions in limine, that Mr. Baldwin's demeanor, even leading up to the accident, was not going to be coming in because the court engaged in that balancing test and said, for example, anything regarding him exhibiting poor behavior. Understood, Your Honor. And so I have actually the court's ruling here. So what it says is that any of the videos or any evidence or pictures which relate to Mr. Baldwin not handling or that goes to the defendant's gun that worked or didn't work, and they're showing that it did work because he's shooting. There's videos showing that he's cocking the gun, and it says that those would come in. However, everything else regarding him yelling at the crew or telling people to hurry up, none of that is relevant, and that is propensity evidence.
Right, and that dealt with what was offered, okay?
That is correct.
Was not offered. This was not even discussed at that time. So this is fresh to the court.
Absolutely, Your Honor. So what we're doing is we're looking at what the court had previously ruled, and then we're using that also to inform the arguments that we're making at this time. And so certainly when we're talking about state of mind for after the fact, that becomes even less relevant than state of mind or actions that were happening leading up to the accident. So when we're looking at what this is actually probative of, the state is saying it's probative of that he's, talking about he's going to go have a good time. He's really not that distraught about it. But if we look again at what is Mr. Baldwin's state of mind after this has happened, what element does that go to within the proof that the state has to
Now they want to stick to
demonstrate
the elements
in
of the
order to
charge.
meet the elements to demonstrate that he is actually guilty of involuntary manslaughter? And the answer is that none of this here is probative of any effect of consequence to any of the elements of the crime that he is
They
charged
just
with.
spent 4
So when
hours
the
on
court
the
is
search of
engaging in this
PDQ.
balancing test, we have to look to see what is the probative value, and there's none or very minimal. But the danger of unfair prejudice is substantial, and it substantially outweighs any probative value in that, again, he's talking about his family, he's talking about plans that they have, and there's danger that the jury will misinterpret that or misuse that to view him as being callous or that he doesn't care about Ms. Hutchins, when actually that's not accurate. So we are asking the court that the court exclude this section that we're referring to. In addition, Your Honor, let me go over to page 5. If the court will look at the top of page 5, here again, this is just more, them trying to make him look callous. He's worried about, at the top, he's talking about staying away from
Just look
people.
over your shoulder.
Yes, of course. Mhm. Oh, do you want? Okay.
I just want it because mine's under yours, so I can't
Understood.
see where you are. Okay.
So, Your Honor, so what we're talking about here up at the top of the page is, again, he's worried about being photographed. He does live a very public life, and this is a very, difficult, sensitive time just in general for everyone. And the references to the media
Oh, no.
here,
Oh, no.
again, can be taken as something callous or
Oh, I missed him with his head in his hands.
something of that sort. And so, he's talking about, this is breaking news, this is media, and he's trying to keep his family away from that as well. So it's misleading. And when we engage in a 403 balancing test, this should not come in.
She doesn't look very sincere.
Normally, I would agree, but for the fact that the defense actually made his demeanor after the fact relevant. So now that they've made it relevant, it's relevant. And it goes both ways.
All right, thank you. The court makes the following ruling. Under 11-401, it says it has any tendency to make a fact more or less probable than it would be without the evidence and the factors of consequence in determining the action. It is not only the issue of whether he committed the crime of involuntary manslaughter, it's also a relevant fact. And you all made that fact very important through Officer LaFleur yesterday. So I do find that it's relevant to basically respond to you all talking about how upset Mr. Baldwin
Another
was,
misstep by the
and,
defense.
certainly that you considered that fact of consequence, and I'm deciding that this rebuttal information is of consequence. I also find that its probative value is not substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice and all the other choices that are under 11-403.
And all the
I will
other
say
things.
I think that I'm not going to let everything in. I'm going to focus on page 4, and I'll start with line 16 and on page 4, and I will go to page 5.
And I'm sorry, is this what's coming in or what's staying out?
No, it's coming in. The
Okay.
rest of the yellow is staying out.
Can you repeat that line
Just a
again?
minute, I'm reading
Okay,
page 5.
sorry.
Okay, so it's line
Oh,
16.
Alex
starting
Spiro
with
stepped
Alec
on his
Baldwin.
dick.
Finishes the rest of the page 4, starts on page 5 at the top, and finishes on line 10. The rest of the yellow will be redacted.
Understood.
By the end of this
are we
trial,
ready to
Alex
move
going
on
to
the next
have to
one?
settle for Corporal
The
Hancock.
next one I show, and Ms. LeBlanc, just correct me if I'm wrong, is on page 12. So this issue goes directly to Mr. Baldwin's state of mind, and I'm looking, Your Honor, I'm sorry, at basically 12 through 14. He understands He understands that whether there's a live round on set or not, these guns can be dangerous. And he says it right here between 12 and 14. What he's talking about with the wadding can come out. If you're closer, you can get a burn. That's him talking about his knowledge of the danger of these guns. That goes directly to the heart of the state's case. As the court knows, the state doesn't disagree with 15 through 17. And again, when we start here on 18, where Mr. Baldwin says, "I'm told," that again goes directly to his knowledge of the
This must be the
the-
police interview.
the injuries that can occur if these guns are not handled with safety. He says right there, "I'm told even with the flash powder, you can cause contusions and you can do a brain bleed and die." And you know what? We can take out this part here that says which both of them died, because that is relevant to the Brandon Lee, John Eric Hexum that we agreed to remove. So I don't oppose taking out both of them died, but this goes directly to the heart of the state's case. And then I think it's 21 through 25 we've agreed to redact. Obviously, this part here on the top of page 13 is very important to the state because Mr. Baldwin says, "My point is I've been doing this. I shot enough guns in my day in movies. I've never seen this before where a flash round was." Obviously, what I'm trying to get in is he's got experience with firearms, and he talks to Detective Hancock pretty extensively about that. So his personal experience
This is
with
that whole
firearms
damaging
on movie sets and off
interrogation
movie
the
sets
day of the
is
shooting.
all absolutely relevant.
The jury is not present.
You want me to stop there?
Yeah.
Here, let's do this. Let me just-
No lawyer present. This is how he sunk himself. I told you. I told you. This is what his
So, Your
lawyers
Honor,
are
this
stuck
was
with.
already the subject of a defense motion in limine that the court ruled upon. So we have in the transcript of the pretrial proceedings, the parties were arguing about whether or not this knowledge of danger of blanks would be admissible. And so what the court ruled was, the court said, the court makes the following ruling, weighing whether it has any tendency to make a fact more probable or less probable than it would be without it, and whether its probative value substantially is outweighed by the unfair prejudice. I think it's difficult to deal with what I read in the grand jury transcripts about, the theory about the negligent use of a deadly weapon is that this manner of handling, that he shouldn't have cocked the gun, etc. And then with respect to the alternative is that he failed to check the gun. He failed to confirm that the gun, and I remember the word confirm, about live ammunition before he pointed it at someone. The court went on. I think that I will not allow any testimony other than one sentence, probably by your expert, Ms. Morrissey, that says the blanks also can kill. But to consider that he failed somehow, that's just going to be up to the trier of fact. I think everybody knows that guns can kill. It depends on what's in there. But I think that you cannot mention it, you can mention it, but that's it. We're not going through 5 different questions on tell me how serious this is, and if he's a gun owner and he's done all these Westerns or not Westerns, but all this gun experience, then he should have known. Just say that, and if you can tie that up, great. So that's specifically on this subject, and so we've already argued this, and the court has already ruled. So based on that, we are asking that the court, consistent with its previous ruling, exclude these portions. And the additional portions, there will be a number of other sections in the transcript that I think we can dispense with rather quickly once we have the court's ruling on that as well.
Is that the part about when he talks about the commingling? Is one of them about the commingling and the dummy rounds?
I don't recall, Your Honor, I have some flagged, but I think we can move through them fairly quickly, and I can identify those to the court every place that is throughout the transcript. But
All right, thank you.
If I may. So my concern is that I didn't realize necessarily during the motion hearing, I thought we were talking about witness testimony, not the defendant's own statements. And let me try to articulate for the court where I think some difficulty may come in. if I have my expert do what the court suggested and just have him give the one sentence that blanks can kill, then what we're missing, the important part is that Mr. Baldwin knows that. So these statements that he made to Detective Hancock go directly to that one sentence that you're allowing us to get in, because Mr. Baldwin actually knows that, and the elements of the offense go directly to what he knew or should have known. That's in the actual jury instruction. So this is something that he knew or should have known. There are rules that say don't point the gun at anyone, and this is obviously one of the reasons, is because even if you have largely inert ammunition, it can still hurt someone, or Mr. Baldwin even indicated he knew that it could kill someone. So I think that this needs to be in for that reason.
Which motion was it?
Your Honor, it was, I'll approach the podium.
Good point, Carrie. The ruling on that motion was about witness testimony, not Baldwin's own statements. Excellent point. Nice catch.
Your Honor, I believe this was number 3. This would be defense 3, is that correct? Defendant's motion on limine 3, I believe it was. And we have the transcript if the court would like to review it. Based on what the state has just argued in their reply, may I just be heard as to the new arguments?
Is this your motion?
I'm sorry, Your
The
Honor.
new argument?
Yes, the
That's
state.
her reply,
the state-
isn't it? Didn't she go first?
She did. She
Then
did.
You're doing a surreply.
And if I may have just a few sentences, Your Honor, because I think this is important, as what she stated is new, since she's now talking about disagreeing with the ruling that we had. But we relied on the court's ruling.
It's
In
different.
our jury selection, we did not cover this topic. In our opening, we did not cover this topic.
It's not 3. Where is it?
I believe it's number 3. It's the foreseeability.
7, Your Honor.
Oh, 7. I apologize, Your Honor. Number 7.
You mean defendant 7?
Defendants 7. Yes, Your Honor. It was our motion to exclude.
The judge should allow it. Carrie Morrissey's right. The
Would the
eliminating
court like me to
motion
present the transcript.
was about
No,
witness
we're saying
testimony, not the defendant's own statements. And what the defendant knew is probative to elements of the criminal charge. Oh my God, what a terrible look. Oh my God. That's boss baby. That's 100% boss baby right there. Oh man. I gotta save these screen captures. Oh, come on.
Was it?
Don't put your head in your hands when you're a defendant.
What is the name of the motion?
The name of the motion.
It's a motion to exclude evidence related to discrimination, Your Honor.
Oh, all right.
The additional blanks came up in the opposition.
Okay.
in detail.
Got it.
If he stands up and he's wearing a diaper, I'm going to lose it. Oh, I did want to talk about the jury instructions. I was so prepped for that. And I was going to go to the restroom. Oh my gosh. Someone keeps talking about this. Oh, there's a stenographer. Oh, she knows she's on TV today. She's got a ponytail and everything. The big glasses.
All right.
A little
Go
bit of
Thank you, Your Honor.
decolletage.
To allow the state to basically relitigate this, I think would put us in very dangerous territory, because the defense relied on the court's ruling, and the court was very clear about what would be permitted and what would not be. And I think to say that the state thought that that somehow didn't apply to statements they wanted to introduce by Mr. Baldwin is disingenuous. And so we relied on this again in our jury. Yes, Your Honor. Permission to approach the court.
This is terrible for them. We relied on this in our voir dire, they're going to say. Voir dire. Is Rumble not working? I'm trying to see if I screwed up Rumble. I'm going to see if I can activate it right now. I think when we went live early, StreamYard is telling me it's working.
You know, this was related to, and I think I say it here where I talk about on page 154, which you left out. But this is to Mr. Nikas, where he's saying that the state Ms. Hutchinson would have died if there were a blank in the gun. That they were asserting that they were going beyond live ammunition, and they were talking about that they expected witnesses to testify, in particular Mr. Carpenter, that blanks can kill as well, and that he should have known that. That's different from his own admissions of his knowledge. And I'm going to let the following in. I'm going to let page 12. I'm going to let line 13 right in the middle. Sometimes the wadding can come out. If you're closer, you can get a burn. It shows that he does have knowledge of guns.
Hang on, Your Honor, just want to use, I see, I'm sorry.
And then on lines 18, 19, and I'm told even with the flash powder, you can cause contusions and you can do a brain bleed.
Oh!
Also, lines 1 through 5 on page 13.
And Your Honor, I do understand the court's ruling. If I may, just for the court, just to remind me.
We're up on Rumble.
With the transcripts, and we had these arguments earlier. So if I may, just to kind of perhaps refresh the court a little bit, part of what the arguments were about as well was the fact that the way that the grand jury presentation had gone, and then that had not been focused on blanks. It was about live ammunition, live
Too
rounds,
late. The
and
ruling's
that
made.
was the basis of what the knowledge must be in order for
Judge.
it to meet the elements of the charge.
This is what in the grand jury, Mr. Carpenter was talking about all these duties that Mr. Baldwin should have had, including the knowledge that blanks can kill. He said that he should have had that knowledge. Everybody has that knowledge when they talk about don't point in the gun and things like that. And I did not want to belabor the point that blanks can kill. Okay, but that's different from Mr. Baldwin's own assertions of the knowledge that he had with respect to guns. All right. Next.
I knew too much.
Your Honor,
I wasn't enough of a baby.
With regard to the bottom of page 14, the last two words that start with and I'm. And then if we, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. And then if we move to the top of 15, this is the exact same information, exact same argument. It's Mr. Baldwin solidifying and reiterating what he knew or should have known that goes directly to the elements of the offense. Nothing further.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was actually retrieving my items. What page were we on?
If we go right down to the bottom of 14, and we just start with those two words, and then we just roll over to the first four lines of page
No, if he's convicted, he's doing time. This judge is not giving him any breaks on time. I would not expect that in the least.
And so, the issue that we're going to have, again, with this, Your Honor, is that we did not ask witnesses questions regarding this type of harm and what
You
was
mean
learned,
jurors?
and certainly those kinds of things might have been able to come through Miss Popple. And so, and again, we did not do jury selection on this, which we absolutely would have. We didn't open on this because of the ruling and the way that we understood it based on our review of the transcript. So I do have concerns that this is going to prejudice the defense, and we would ask that the court consider not allowing
Attention to
this.
my ruling, because my ruling was with respect to witnesses, because I particularly told Ms. Morrissey that her witness got to ask her witness one sentence. And that is because Mr. Carpenter was really opinionated about that blanks can kill in the grand jury, and I did not want to move away
Mommy
from
Judd.
the fact that they weren't blanks, it was live ammunition. But this goes to Mr. Baldwin's state of mind, completely
You
different.
should have remembered
and
to pack your
I'm going to let
lunch.
this in as well, page 15, 1 through 4.
Your job to
Lines 1
remember
through
your
4.
sunscreen. If you can't get to the bus stop on time, you're walking to school. You should have paid attention to my ruling.
Page 62.
Oh no. Oh my God. Alec, what are you paying for? What are you? Are they all being
Your Honor,
distracted by
jumping
the
to
court
bottom
reporter?
of Page 62.
Alec's looking for the wood chipper he can dive into. Where's the wood chipper?
You know what? I'm gonna change my position. Why don't we go ahead and just exclude the bottom of 62 and the top of 63?
Yes, I agree.
What's the next one, Heather? Since you've got the tab.
The next one is 69.
The black guy from the defense table just walked out of the courtroom. He's like, "Oh crap! This is ruining my career."
So
He's gonna get out in the hallway and log right into LinkedIn. He's gonna change his bio.
I think that as witness testimony, and it's difficult when we're doing motions in limine because the court certainly doesn't know what all the witness testimony is going to be. So part of the issue here is we were intending to ask the court to, not necessarily today with these witnesses, to potentially reconsider this ruling. I don't think it makes a big difference in this particular interview, but we absolutely have witnesses who will testify if the court were to permit them. The safety bulletins speak directly to producers and their responsibility for set safety. I can show it to you. In addition to that, the witnesses who were on scene with Mr. Baldwin would discuss the fact that
Look at
his
Baldwin's face.
role
He hates
as
her.
producer
Look,
is what enabled him to be in a position to
if looks could
disregard
kill.
the safety rules. But with regard to this particular line, I'm not married to it. I can try to revisit this issue with the court when we have relevant witnesses on the witness stand.
Your Honor, the court had the ability to reserve.
So all I'm looking at is this line, okay? Both of you, and I'm going to not let it in.
Okay.
Okay, next.
What's the next one?
Next is, this one's out by stipulation. Let me see. Next is page 81. A portion of that is
Oh,
out
man,
by
he's-
stipulation, but I
look at him.
believe the,
That's not
the
the
next is
victory
page
right there.
81.
Yes.
The top portion of that is out by stipulation, I believe, but then the lower part of page 81 is still subject to disagreement.
Let me just refresh my memory on what it is.
This is Alec Baldwin on the other end of the Glengarry Glen Ross speech. They gave him the shitty leads. Good leads are for closers.
So.
Where's the scene where they drag him out into the woods and execute
Wait a
him?
minute, let me.
I want to see a stack of shitty
I guess
leads on the table in
top
front
part
of
of
him.
it is directly related to what he's talking about at the beginning, which the court admitted. So my concern is I don't think that we if we take
He's
out,
looking at Carrie Morris's butt.
and on Saturday,
What are you
my
looking
daughter
at,
was
Alec?
going to be in the movie. We had a little part for her. And this top. So I want to point out that here at the bottom of page 81.
Hey, Alec,
Mr.
lube is for
Baldwin
closers.
says, well, let me ask you this. Originally, this is very complicated. I mean, none of this compared to what happened to them, but my wife and my whole family was here. They weren't, but his daughter was going to be in the movie. So again, this goes to the opening arguments, the continuing defense that we are going to hear throughout the course of this trial. Mr. Baldwin, at this point in time, knows that someone's in the hospital and another person has been taken away on a helicopter, is critically injured, and what he is concerned about during the interview is what's happening to his family and whether or not his family is going to come and visit him. So he's actually taking a moment in the interview with the detective to talk about, this is complicated because my family is supposed to come.
All right, thank you.
So, Your Honor, the court has already ruled admissible the previous portion of this. And again, I think when the court is looking at balancing, the court can also determine how much of this to permit in. It is cumulative of what the state already has used the earlier statements.
Like Alex Spiro's
to
question testimony isn't
to
cumulative.
reference, which would be his supposed state of mind after the fact. I don't know how much we need to then, continue to allow in all of the rest of this over and
Please,
over.
Your Honor, please,
And
we're dead.
certainly, again, him wanting to have his family there with him is not shocking after something like this. It is certainly a very difficult time. But again, the court, as the court is
He's
looking
like,
at the
Hilaria,
balancing,
go get the
one of
baby.
those things that the court will balance is
Hilaria.
the cumulative nature of what is being
I want to see
offered.
that baby come
Court has
flying
already
into the
ruled admissible
courtroom.
the previous statements, and we would ask that the court not allow additional statements related to that at this time.
Wearing
based
an
on the
I love
limited
Halyna
value
t-shirt,
of the
a little
testimony or
onesie.
evidence.
All right, I don't think this is of much consequence. I think that the part I ruled on earlier went to rebut the information about his coloring and everything else like that. Granted, there was a lapse in time, so that can be addressed in questioning. But the fact that his daughter was going to be in the movie and he's mentioning that, I don't think that, and she was so excited to come. I don't think that's helpful. He's just describing really his kids. That's not coming in.
Understood. Is the next one that on page 83? Is that what you
Yes,
have?
yes. And the first, I think, 5 lines
Maybe-
are up by stipulation, and then we're just dealing with then 6.
Right, so 6 through 14, certainly the top part is an explanation of his comments at the beginning that the court has ruled are admissible. I certainly can forfeit. I told the producers I would stay tomorrow in case anybody else, their insurance investigators, their lawyers want to talk to me. I don't have too much heartburn over letting that go, but I do think that the fact that there are 2 people who've been taken away to the hospital, and Mr. Baldwin is upset because his wife wants to cancel her trip, again goes directly to the defense of this man was devastated.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So, Your Honor, first, the state, this was already part of the stipulation, was through page 83, line 5. So I won't argue that since the state had already stipulated to that earlier. With respect to lines 6 through 14, much of what is being relayed here is actually his wife's statements, about what she thought about, the weird energy or whether or not she wanted to come down. And so I think, again, the state has already is already going to be permitted to introduce those other statements related to his state of mind. This has very minimal probative value, particularly considering the court's ruling a moment ago, and we would ask that the court exclude this, particularly, again, considering the fact that a lot of this is about his wife and her thoughts as well. And it's not sufficiently probative.
Yeah, I don't think it's very relevant. I think, and the relevancy goes to the rebuttal of how he was feeling. I think that the pages 4 and 5 directly relate to that, but I don't think this does, so I'm not going to redact it. Last page.
There is further down on the same page. I believe it starts at line 22 of page 83 and then continues on into page 84, line 8.
So Mr. Baldwin has critically injured someone, and what he's saying to the detective, and keep in mind, Your Honor, Mr. Baldwin was going to stay and complete originally he was going to be in New Mexico to complete the filming until I think close to the end of October. And he is already making plans to return home to New York, even though he's critically injured 2 people. It is the exact opposite of what the defense is going to argue, which is this was devastating to him. This devastating. I think there's even phrases in this interview where he says, "I'm devastated," or maybe it's in November 3rd. So this is completely contradictory to other statements that he makes where he says, "I'm devastated." 2 people are in the hospital and he doesn't even want to stay and make sure they're okay.
Your Honor, he offered to stay, and that's throughout this transcript. It even says it further down on this same page. He says, "Unless you tell me not to, or if you tell me to come back in, I'll do whatever it is that you want." He's making himself completely available, but not shockingly, his wife wants him home. He is a father.
I don't find it relevant to rebuttal. It's going to be redacted. All right, next.
The next one is out by stipulation, which is on page 85.
I think that's it. Could it be?
That
Yes,
may be it on this one. I will note,
You
Your Honor.
stipulated to, okay, what?
Yes. There were other portions within here that we had found that were related to the blank situation. I understand the court's ruling. If the court is willing to consider as part of its gatekeeping function, limiting the amount of that.
Too
just
late,
the amount.
too
I
late.
understand.
That's what
Right.
happens when you do
understand,
2 days before. Okay, let's go.
Just in terms of, I know that we've got one more statement to try to tackle. So now that the court has ruled on the redactions, because these are the defense requests, I'm expecting the defense to do the redactions and provide them to me quickly, because this is Hancock, and Hancock's going to take the witness stand as soon as possible.
That is our intention.
Well, you're finished, so you're going to do,
No, I have
oh, that's right, okay, I
5 or
apologize.
so 10 minutes max.
Okay, and then you're going to do the redirect. So while they're doing that, go ahead and provide a copy with the redactions that I've ruled should
Yes,
be
ma'am.
redacted, which were minimal.
Captions
Okay.
are unavailable right now.
What's next?
All right.
There is the second statement. Is this
So
yours?
the,
Is this your copy?
Too late.
the
The judge says
second
too late.
statement, this is a statement that takes place on
I hope you
November-
got that. Do you need any clarification? Because I don't want this going south when Hancock's on the stand. Do you want me to
Yes.
repeat it?
I think we have it from the
Okay.
transcript. Ron.
Hmm?
I think we have it from the transcript.
No.
No,
My
repeat it.
rulings. So,
Yes, just
okay.
we have the real time.
All right, okay, good. Okay, what's next? I said the jury comes back at 2. They have 1 minute before I call back
Yes.
the jury.
Yes,
Otherwise,
sir.
you're going to abandon these.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll be quick.
So if we look at this part at the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2,
This is what I'm going to do because we're running out of time.
Yep.
I'm going to make a ruling. These were given to, your intended redactions were given 2 days before. And so far, the only thing I've heard that was a surprise was the testimony of his knowledge of guns. So let's see. Well, I mean, everybody got a point somewhere. I don't find that, I'm going to redact that. I don't find that's relevant. It's just in passing, really. And he's talking about other people.
Well, if I can,
Sure,
Your Honor, I just
yeah.
want to talk about it in a little bit more context. So what's happening here is Detective Hancock and Mr. Baldwin are talking about Ms. Gutierrez and her lawyers. Ms. Gutierrez is obviously her conduct is being discussed extensively. Mr. Baldwin says, but it's her lawyer saying that on her behalf. So if we're going to redact the bottom portion, then honestly, I think that we need to redact the part where he says it's her lawyer saying that on her behalf. I mean, I think if we redact the part about the lawyers, we redact everything.
That's fine. It does take it out of like nowhere context. Okay, yeah, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, and then if you really want to argue it. All right, page 15. I
Yes,
don't find this relevant. About,
Okay, Pete, I'm sorry. Let me catch up to you.
sure. Yeah.
So this is relevant because what Mr. Baldwin is talking about right here to Hancock is his intention to sit for a public interview, and that public interview turns out to be with George Stephanopoulos. It was that interview that led to the accidental discharge testing and all kinds of stuff. Again, Judge, it's the defendant's own statement. He knew he had a right to counsel.
All right, I'll let 1 through 6 in, but this thing about the Kennedy Center is not coming in. 1 through 6 on page 15.
1 through 6 comes in, the rest of it's out. Understood.
Oh,
Page
so they got
18.
some of the Stephanopoulos interview
Tell me
in.
why this is relevant or not relevant or relevant. Ms. Morrissey.
Okay, let me just, sure, so the top part is him saying to
Morrissey may as well be
Detective
digging a
Hancock,
grave here.
You don't know anything about my business. You don't know anything about my business. You're in law enforcement. You're the person who, when they do something wrong, you're the last person they want to see. You live a very, very difficult, but ultimately very narrow life. I believe, hang on, let me finish it a little bit.
Was he berating someone here?
Well, it all goes, I think we've got like three or four pages, so I think it all kind of goes together. Hang on just a second. Okay, so this part, I mean, the part at the bottom of 18, it puts in context the part at the top of 19, and this goes directly to Mr. Baldwin's motivation to lie about pulling the trigger of the gun. I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore. He's talking about his career and that he can't rely on luck anymore. This goes exactly to his motivation.
Oh no,
not
he just
to
walked out.
Can we approach it briefly?
Alec Baldwin just walked out of the courtroom. What the heck? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, Carrie Morrissey, I told you she's dangerous, man. She is dangerous. She's using a backhoe to dig a grave right now. She's using a backhoe to dig a grave. I wonder if this is what's happening in the back of the courtroom. I knew I'd have an opportunity to use that joke. Oh, good heavens. Oh, all his own statements. These are his own statements she's referencing. Oh my gosh. Well, this is folks. I made a timestamp. Nope, I can't clip it in real time, Shane. Um, good Lord. Maybe I can. Let me see.
I don't think this information is that helpful one way or the other, but I'm going to let it in because of the lateness of your redactions.
Oh,
So because it's 2 o'clock now, and so we're going to go. All right.
I understand your ban.
May I just briefly just be heard on that point?
No.
no,
All right.
no. Can I speak more,
Get your
Judge?
redactions in
No.
earlier.
Understood here.
This is what happens when you run me out of
Everything
time.
I quit on. Is
We're
coming
done.
in. Do you understand? That page forward
Yes,
So everything subsequent to.
and that page.
okay.
I'm seeing if I can clip this. Alec Baldwin just fleeing. These are bad leads. You can't talk to me that way. Don't you know I'm the boss? Don't you know I'm the boss? The boss baby. He's back. Oh my God, he's back and he looks like he aged 30 years. He looks like he's blind. He's staggering into the courtroom.
We're asking two different questions.
Oh my God, he's yelling at his lawyers. Oh dear Lord. Now Alex Spiro has to continue the cross-examination of energetic Marissa Papel. You think Alex went out and looked for Hannah Gutierrez Coke stash? He found her little baggie of of protein mix.
This goes on the record.
Oh my gosh, I
Did you ask for us to come up?
Yes.
I just, okay.
Oh, good heavens. I gotta hit the restroom. Should I do it right now? I'm gonna do it right now. I'll be right back. Hold on.
All right, you may be seated. Go ahead.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Spiro.
Good afternoon. You had seen when you were testifying earlier, Mr. Baldwin in court today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the first time that you've seen him since, I believe, since the day that the incident occurred?
Correct.
And of course, you see him here as a defendant in a courtroom wearing a suit jacket. He wasn't dressed like that on the scene, right?
Right.
He was Harlan Rust, and he had his actor.
It was all
costume,
make
right?
believe.
Yes.
It was all a
And
movie
you
set.
actually took those clothes.
It was a fantasy world,
and
except for
kept
the
them
real
blood,
death of
like you
Halyna
said
Hutchins.
before, right?
I did.
And he was shaking as you did that, was he not?
He seemed upset as I did that.
And of course, you remember that, right?
Yes,
And the lapel that you've reviewed has refreshed your memory.
correct.
And you know that he received a phone call from his friend Joel, the director who had been shot, and you used that information to then send officers to the hospital to retrieve the bullet, correct?
I believe we already had deputies at the hospital at that time.
But he told you that and told you that that would be something that he wanted you to do, right?
He indicated it was something he wanted law enforcement to do, but we were already making the necessary, we were already sending a deputy to the hospital to retrieve that.
And he told you that he pulled the gun out, he turned, and he just cocked the gun, right?
He did state that, yes.
He didn't say he pulled the trigger, right?
I don't recall him saying that.
And you never tested the hammer of that gun for DNA, did you?
I do not know the FBI lab's process for processing a firearm for DNA.
But because he told you that, and I'm putting up A10, defense exhibit, that's why you knew that the document that had fallen near Miss Hutchins that says macro on hammer as thumb cocks it was so important. Isn't that right?
What?
There was a paper inside of the church that indicated a firearm was being used. So I photographed it. We had paperwork that was later collected out of Miss Hutchins's
None of this makes any sense.
side bag that was also additional script. And that was collected because it was part of her bag, part of her personal property.
And you see the name Halyna on top, right?
Yes, this is what was taken out of her bag.
And what was at the floor, A3, Russ Colt cocked quietly now. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Because if
And
he
you and
cocked
your
the hammer,
fellow
that means he didn't
officers
pull the trigger.
Discussed this and said, this is important. It confirms what he told us, didn't you?
I believe that I stated it was important because it was a script that involved a firearm inside the church where a shooting had occurred.
And
Ba, ba, ba.
after this point in time, eventually, you all sent that firearm off, not to have the firearm tested, its hammer for DNA, but rather for it to end up being destroyed. In the testing.
Destroyed!
Broken in
Drink!
the testing, if you
Drink.
The firearm was sent for DNA, and additional testing was not conducted until later.
We were talking also, to move away from the firearm for a second, about how the lethal round got on set, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Baldwin, you actually told him that you would figure it out. You gave him that assurance. You said, I get it. I know that there was a live round, wasn't supposed to be on set. We law enforcement are going to find that out, didn't you?
I believe the words that I used was, that's why we're here. We're here to try and figure out what happened.
And one of your fellow officers sort of came over the top of you and sort of confirmed to him, don't worry, we're going to find out.
Objection to whatever a fellow officer-
Effect on listener? What? One word, but objection. Yes, what is it?
Objection to hearsay, the officer isn't here, who he's speaking of.
Respond.
It's not for the truth of the matter asserted, but that it was heard.
Okay. Well, did you lay the foundation for that? Did you ask her what she did because of that?
Not yet, but I can.
Okay.
And after
Foundation for effect on listener.
after what you said and what you heard from your fellow officer, it is true, as you've testified previously, that you did go out to seek the source of that lethal round, right?
Please rephrase your question as to the word seek.
Sure. After you said what you said and the officer said what he said, is it not the case that you made it a priority to try to find the source of the lethal ammunition,
This
correct?
has been the only witness
Our
all day.
priority was to find
Only
the facts
cross.
of what had happened in this situation.
And one of the steps that you took that we talked about by searching the truck, by going to Seth Kenny, by getting a PDQ, one of the things you then did was you did seek out and try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Yes.
And as you were doing that, you continued to work with
I
Corporal
can't wait till
Hancock,
the redirect.
right?
Yes.
You would see her and the prosecutors often, right?
I would see Corporal Hancock more often.
And you testified previously about the search for the lethal ammunition at the trial of the armorer.
The
correct?
lethal ammunition.
And a question came up at that trial of this issue of, did Seth Kenny really provide the ammunition to Seth or not, right?
Yes, I believe that came up.
Okay. And eventually there was a verdict in that case, right?
Yes.
And a good Samaritan walked into the police station and gave you the lethal ammunition, didn't they?
After the Hannah Gutierrez trial, there was an individual that came to the police station and stated they had ammunition.
And they turned in the ammunition
Yes.
and they gave it to you, right?
Yes.
And they told you that this was the ammunition that ended up with Seth Kenny that killed Miss Hutchins, right?
I do not recall all of their statements.
Where's that witness? Where's that person?
Who did you tell about that?
I never heard of this
During
person
that
before.
conversation, my Lieutenant Brian Brandel, was with me, and Detective Hancock was aware of that individual, that he had come to the sheriff's office.
And you never vouchered that and turned it over to the defense, did you?
It was a doc information situation,
I don't know what that means. Can you just explain it to me?
meaning that I was instructed by my lieutenant to create a doc info report on it.
And I mean, what does that mean?
Means we're documenting information that this individual came and gave this ammunition to us.
Okay, but you didn't, I mean, he told you it had to do with the Rush shooting, correct?
Yes,
And he told you actually that he was a police officer in a neighboring county, right?
I believe he said he was a retired police officer. Yes.
And he told you you all had been duped by Seth Kenny, didn't he?
No,
In words and substance, didn't he?
I don't recall that. No.
Okay. And he said to you, I'm willing to fill out a witness statement, right?
No, I don't recall that.
He told you that the rounds came from a green ammo
He's
can, didn't he?
testifying.
Sustained.
Did you take the rounds that were provided to you? By the way, they were Starline brass, nickel primer, live, weren't they?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
The mystery Good Samaritan
That
who
is
just
what I said.
walked in off the street and saved Alec Baldwin's butt. First of all, where the ammo came from and how it got in the gun and why it wasn't detected has nothing to do with Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter charge. He looks like he's flailing. Why am I not a partner at Quinn Emanuel?
Well,
I can do better than
This
this.
information after mine is going to be my response. But he told you the reason that he was coming in is because he didn't trust law enforcement on this case.
Well, you know what? She's going to object to hearsay, and you're going to say effect on listener.
Okay.
Well, you're going to have to lay your foundation better. You
Yeah.
are.
So let me ask this question. How come law enforcement didn't voucher this with the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I'm not sure what you mean by the word voucher.
How come you didn't inventory it and put it with all the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I was instructed to put this in as a doc information case, which I did, and it is under that case number.
You buried it.
No,
Your lieutenant?
there is a supplemental report on it, and that was placed into evidence.
Did you ever turn that over to the defense?
I have not turned over anything to the defense My information goes through the sheriff's office.
Are you aware of whether the sheriff's office ever informed the defense that a good Samaritan came in and turned in this ammunition?
I do not know.
When the defense came to view the Starline brass nickel primer live ammunition with you, you didn't show them this, did you?
I did not have an evidence viewing with the defense. That was my coworker.
Your coworker didn't show this to the defense, correct?
I do not know.
Do you have any reason to believe your coworker showed this to the defense?
Come on,
Given that it
speculation.
wasn't put in the same inventory as the rest case?
No.
Oh, so desperate.
Did you or anyone from the sheriff's office ever tell the armorer or her lawyers that a good Samaritan
She
came
can
in
smell
after the
his
verdict
fear.
and gave you this information?
Look at
do
Marissa
not
Popple.
know.
Look at her demeanor. She was on her heels earlier. Now she can. When Marissa Popple can smell your fear, you need new deodorant.
But you do agree. He did tell you that Seth said this was the evidence from the shooting, correct?
How's that
I
not
don't
hearsay?
recall what he stated, what someone else stated.
And you told him
It's double hearsay.
he didn't have to write a witness
Look at her.
statement.
She's smirking
Law
now.
enforcement was going to type up a report on it today, right?
I never stated any such thing about a witness statement.
He offered to provide a written witness statement so that it was clear. Did he not?
I do not recall that happening.
Okay. Did you give him assurances? Type up a report on it?
I don't recall providing assurances to him.
Did you tell him that you would write up a report on it?
I don't recall doing that either.
Do you deny it?
No.
So when you testified earlier that you never found the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins, that wasn't true either, was it?
Can you rephrase the way you stated that?
Sure. As you sit here today, having had a good Samaritan turn in these 45 rounds into the precinct, right?
No one knows
That's
what those
you're
rounds
discussing,
are.
then?
Yeah. You don't know whether or not you have in your possession the live rounds that killed Miss Hutchins, do you?
There are, no live round killed Miss Hutchins.
The live round that killed Miss Hutchins has been fired. Are you asking me about a connection between those live rounds and other ones?
I'm asking you, as we've talked about at great length, whether or not
How do you get to be partner?
withdrawn.
Adam,
I'm asking you, isn't it the case that law enforcement likely has the matching rounds to the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins?
how would she
I
know?
do not know.
And you do not know because you made a doc report about this and did not put it with the rest of the rust evidence, correct?
Those rounds were not placed with the rest of the rust evidence, correct?
Nor were they sent to the FBI for testing with the rust evidence, were they?
No, they were not.
Nobody knows where these. What's the
No
name
further
of this Good
questions.
Samaritan? No one knows where this ammo came from.
Redirect.
For all we know, this was Alec Baldwin in a rubber mask. Redirect. Come on, Carrie, bring it. I know a lot of people don't like Carrie Morrissey because of her demeanor. She is good at this. She's going to come across as kind of
Ms.
the
Poplar, are you a
irritating-
detective?
No, I am not.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in this case?
No, I did not.
You didn't interview Mr. Baldwin?
No,
You didn't interview Ms. Gutierrez?
no.
Mr. Spyro was asking you about the Good Samaritan who arrived at the sheriff's department after the Gutierrez trial. Can you tell the members of the jury when the Gutierrez trial was?
I don't recall exactly. I believe it was back in April.
Would you take end of February, beginning of March?
Yes, that sounds more accurate.
Okay. Do you recall the Good Samaritan's name?
I do not.
Would you recognize it if I said it to you?
Yes.
Troy Teskey.
Yes, that was his name.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey is a close friend of Hannah Gutierrez Reed's father?
No, I did not know that.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey had his own motivations for wanting to place blame on Seth Kinney to help Hannah Gutierrez?
Objection, leading, objection, irrelevant.
Overruled, overruled.
Please answer.
No, I had no knowledge of that.
You open that can, Alex Spiro, you open that can, there might be some whoop ass in there. Oh, just moments ago when Spiro was going at it, Alec Baldwin was
To
smiling.
be clear, is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for bringing live rounds on the movie set?
No.
Is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for loading a live round into the gun?
Right.
Has a person already been tried and convicted for those things?
Yes.
To try to clarify some points, Starline Brass, is that a brand of ammunition?
Yes, it is.
Is it a brand of ammunition or a casing?
It is a casing.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't make
And-
ammo. They just make brass.
The live rounds from the set of Rust had nickel primers, right?
Yes.
Objection, leading, every question.
Overruled.
Yeah, you made your bed, defense.
So let me ask you this. When you went to PDQ to conduct your
It's the
search,
defense chart.
because you're not the detective, do you remember whether he had any surveillance video or not?
I don't remember.
So with regard to
And the
Mr.
judge
Kinney,
is pissed. The defense wasted so much time.
prior to the search of PDQ, did Mr. Kinney actually bring his own live ammunition to the police station?
Yes.
So before you ever executed a search warrant, he went to the police station and said, I want to give you a sample of my live ammunition.
Yes.
And you took that and you sent it to the FBI, right?
Correct.
Now, with regard to ammunition, characteristics of some of this ammunition is it says Starline Brass on the top, right? And when I say it says Starline Brass, describe to the jurors what the emblem is that we see.
It is a star, an arching line, and then another star.
Right.
The live ammunition that was taken from PDQ, was it all Starline Brass?
No.
Was it all nickel primers?
No.
Now, in addition to the stamp on the top of the casing and the color of the primer, does ammunition have different shaped projectiles?
Yes.
And when we're talking about the projectile, we're talking about, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the nose of the bullet. So what actually gets projected out the
bullet.
barrel of the gun.
That is the bullet. The part that comes out is the bullet, folks. The whole thing is a cartridge. Cartridge is bullet, case, powder, primer. You'd think after all this time they would learn this. How could this not be second nature, this nomenclature?
I'm showing you it's been previously admitted. It's State's Exhibit 26. Remind us,
It's the headstand.
which are the live
photo.
rounds? The suspected live rounds.
Oh, no,
Sorry,
it's
we'll
not.
get there.
The ones to the right,
And what are the ones on the left?
they are dummy rounds.
Is there a different shape to the tip of the projectile?
Yes.
Tell us what the difference is.
So the live rounds.
You can mark your screen.
Okay. So the live rounds have a flattened surface to them, whereas our dummy rounds come to a further point. Sorry, I was trying to draw a line. Almost like a curvature to a better point.
At my request, prior to the Gutierrez trial, did you take out a ruler and measure those?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall the size of what we call the meplet, which is that very top of the projectile? Do you recall the size of the live rounds?
Yes, the live rounds were 6 millimeters and the dummy rounds were 4 millimeters.
Every single live round, well, suspected live round taken from the set of rust, was it a 6 millimeter meplet?
Yes.
All of the live ammunition that was taken from PDQ, to include the live ammunition that Seth Kinney brought into the sheriff's station, did any of those have 6 millimeter meplets?
No.
This is they knew they were going to say this. She did not just happen to know this 4 millimeter.
Do you have
6 millimeter.
any evidence that Seth Kinney is the source of the live rounds on rust?
No.
If you know, is there evidence that Hannah Gutierrez brought the live rounds onto the set of rust?
Yes.
What is that evidence? Let's talk about it.
The evidence that I am aware of is a photograph on a cell phone of the rounds in the background of a photograph that was taken with a cell phone. Those rounds are the same ones from the same box that were being pulled from that day that were handed to Lieutenant Benavides.
Let me see if I can find an exhibit to help us.
Let me tell you, folks, if Kerry Morrissey offers you a misdemeanor house arrest plea deal,
States
you might
Exhibit
want to take it.
12. Go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and clear your screen, the marks. Is this the box you're referring to right here?
Yes.
Please show us the exhibits.
Is it your understanding that Hannah Gutierrez
There we go.
admitted to bringing that box on the set?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that Hannah Gutierrez actually provided evidence to the sheriff's department that she was provided that box by her father?
Yes.
And the Good Samaritan who came in with the live rounds and was telling you Seth Kinney's the bad guy, that happened how long after the incident?
That happened well after the incident in after February, so March of this year.
So Ms. Hutchins died in what year?
In October of 2021.
And Mr. Teskey, Hannah Gutierrez's father's good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction?
Objection.
Is that right?
Objection. Assumes facts, not evidence, misleading.
Overruled. Unless you want to come up and tell me.
Yes, I do.
All right, come on up.
I think Alex Spiro. Alex Spiro. needs to. Alex Spiro has something to worry about, and it's this.
Court reporter, would you read back the last question, please?
And Mr. Teskey, Halyna Gutierrez's father's good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction. Is that right?
Go ahead and answer.
Yes.
In your experience, if Seth Kinney wanted to hide the fact that he had live ammunition at PDQ, he had plenty of time to get rid of it, right?
Yes.
And you found some there, right?
Yes.
And the photograph, well, was all of the live ammunition in the same place?
Yes.
Where was it found?
It was in a box on the bottom of a stack labeled as live ammo.
And for completeness, was there live ammunition found in another room away from this box?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Did you find any ammunition that was not .45 caliber anywhere else at PDQ?
I believe there were 2 boxes of marked 38 caliber ammunition that were in another room.
Did Mr. Kinney tell you that his personal firearm's a .38?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been previously admitted as defendants A23.
That was very leading.
Is this?
But the judge is letting her get away with a lot of
So when
leading.
we're talking about .45 caliber ammunition, well, let's back up. Is that the only caliber of live ammunition or suspected live ammunition found on the set of Rust?
Yes.
21, you said?
23, A23. So if you find 38 live ammunition, is that important to you?
No.
Because 38 is not 45, right?
Correct.
So the .45 caliber ammunition that you found at PDQ, is this where you found it?
Yes.
Any mistaking that that would be live ammunition?
No.
Why?
It was clearly marked as live ammunition in that box.
And let me ask you, Ms. Popple, the ammunition that the Good Samaritan, Mr. Teskey, the close friend of Hannah Gutierrez's dad, when that ammunition that he brought to you after her conviction, you still have it?
Yes.
You can bring it in here and you can show it to the jury, right?
Yes.
And they can see for themselves that it does not match the live ammunition from the set of Rust, correct?
Yes.
And that is obvious just when you look at it, is it not?
Yes.
Oh no, Alex Spiro got caught in a flat out lie. Oh. He's hiding behind that billboard, that whiteboard.
How many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set of Rust by Seth Kinney?
If I recall correctly, just 1.
Do you know how many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set by Hannah Gutierrez?
No, I do not.
Fair enough.
Seth Kenny only provided some because Hannah hadn't brought enough.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination, and I think they were related to, let me get the exhibit just so that we know what we're talking about. You were asked some questions about the live ammunition in the other actor's gun belt. You remember those questions on cross?
Yes.
And I think the actor was Jensen Ackles.
Correct.
Do you know whether or not Jensen Ackles checked his firearm on the set of the movie?
No, I do not.
Whether he did his own safety checks?
I do not know.
Let's talk briefly about, let me make sure I have the proper exhibit numbers for the record. I'm showing you defendants A27. Where did those dummy rounds come from?
These were the dummy rounds removed from the box with blue writing that stated dummy rounds.
And who do you know supplied those rounds?
Seth Kenny.
And I think I made a mistake on direct examination. This is State's Exhibit 30. Is that what I showed you?
Yes, I believe so.
And so those actually didn't come out of that box, did they?
Correct.
Do you know where they came from?
They came from a gun belt that was located inside of the prop truck.
Defendants A26. Is that where they came from?
Yes.
Based on the dummy rounds in both of these pictures, from the box and from the gun belt, do they have distinctive characteristics?
Yes.
Have they been identified? Who do you know who supplied all of the dummy rounds that were in the gun belt and in the box?
Yes, that was Seth Kenny.
All right. You were asked some questions about some documents that you photographed. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Everybody
trying to
thinks they're
find
smarter
them.
than the prosecution until they get into court.
Are counsel, are all of the exhibits still up here? Take that as a yes.
I think Alec might have to text that Hawk Tua girl for some advice.
Those are the exhibits? Let's see. Okay, can I use them then?
Yes.
Okay, as long as they're the same. Okay, we'll just use your copies. This is Defendant's Exhibit A10. You remember being shown this?
Yes.
Do you have any idea when this exhibit, or I'm sorry, when scene 125 was being filmed?
No, I do not.
Same question for scene, is it 55 or 66? I apologize.
No.
'68,
No.
115,
No.
118,
No.
121,
This is just
No.
with the CAD.
130.
No.
In fact,
This is the same with the CAD report.
if you know, was Ms. Hutchins killed during the filming of an actual scene?
No, she was not.
She was not. Is that right?
Correct.
She was not. Is that right? Can you speak up?
Same thing here for 118 again. Ms. Hutchins wasn't killed during the filming of a scene, was she?
No, she was not.
This is like one of those Charlie Chaplin falls down a cliff where it takes
Do
him
you
40 minutes.
know, if you do you know who wrote the script?
No, I do not.
Do you know who the director of the movie was?
I believe that was Joel Souza.
Do you know whether or not he's going to come in and testify?
No, I do not.
Did he testify in the Gutierrez trial?
I believe he did, yes.
Did you interview the person who wrote the script?
No.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in the room at the time of the shooting?
No, I did not.
So you haven't talked to a single person who could tell you whether these defense A3 and A10 are relevant at all. Is that right?
Correct.
Oh my God.
You were asked by Mr. Spyro whether or not it was true that live ammunition should never be on a movie set, and you said that was correct. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You've never worked on a movie set before, have you?
No, I've not.
How do you know that?
It makes sense to me. Makes common sense.
But do you know?
No, I do not know the rules of movie sets.
You're not aware that there are safety bulletins for the use of live ammunition on movie sets?
No, I did not know that.
All total, including prop truck, the entire scene out there at Bonanza Creek, how many real firearms were taken into evidence?
If I can look at my report.
Sure.
I believe 13 in total.
13 real firearms.
Yes.
Now, you were asked some questions about Mr. Kinney being present at the search of the prop truck. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you remember why he was present?
I don't recall the details of why he was present.
Do you recall how the sheriff's department got access to the safe?
Yes, Seth Kenny provided us with the combination.
And the firearms that you recovered, real and fake, who did they belong to?
Is my understanding they belong to Seth Kenny.
Would you say that those firearms were many thousands of dollars in value?
Yes.
And do you know who provided the vast majority of the blank ammunition?
That I do not know.
Okay. Does it surprise you that the person who owns the guns had access to the safe?
No.
Have you ever discovered any evidence that Seth Kenny was ever physically present on the set of Rust other than the day that he helped unlock the safe for your search?
No.
Do you recall you were asked some questions about you had information about a green ammo can? And that was one of the reasons that you executed the search warrant. You recall those questions?
Yes.
Do you remember where you got the information about the green ammo can?
I do not.
Did you review any of the photographs from any of the cell phone extractions that were done in this case?
No.
Did you look at any of the text messages between the different witnesses in this case?
No.
Do you have any information that Hannah Gutierrez previously asked if she could have live ammunition on the movie set she was working on with Nicolas Cage?
I do not have that information.
Okay. Now, I understand we've got some photographs of PDQ and it looked like it was really packed full of stuff. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, you called it a warehouse. Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about how big that facility is?
It's a very small facility. It has an upfront office, a hallway that leads to a bathroom, and one small workshop room, and then a room towards the back.
Is it possible for you to estimate the square footage?
No, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. It's a small building.
Yes.
Now, as a crime scene technician, are you trained to find pieces of evidence in difficult areas?
Yes.
Have you ever been in a person's home or apartment that kind of looked like a hoarder place?
Yes.
How many times do you think that's happened to you?
Several dozen.
Several dozen.
At least, yes.
And you're trained to look for evidence in that kind of an environment.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Mr. Kenny's business is a prop house?
Yes.
Would you expect a prop house to be full of props?
Yes.
Was the prop house indeed full of movie props?
Yes.
Did anyone live there?
I don't believe so, no.
Do you have any idea, based on the investigation that you did, whether or not Mr. Baldwin cocked the gun when he wasn't supposed to?
I do not have any information based on what I conducted. No.
Because you didn't interview any of those witnesses, right?
Correct.
you were asked some questions, or at least one or two questions about your pretrial interview with the defense attorneys. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was Mr. Spiro even present at your pretrial interview?
I don't believe so, no.
I'm almost done. Let me just review my notes.
I have two questions from the jury.
Okay.
Questions from the jury.
If you know the investigation into the source of the live rounds, did that investigation continue after the case was turned over to the district attorney's office?
I do not know.
There goes the train. It's my last month in this office, folks.
As a crime scene technician, in your experience, do revolvers go off by themselves?
Oh,
Objection.
Yeah.
701, 702.
Withdrawn.
All right, thank you. That was sustained.
I want to just back up real quick. You were asked a question on cross-examination about specifically information that you had prior to putting in the request for the accidental discharge testing. You recall that question?
Yes.
And I think you testified that you didn't recall what information you received. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were provided a document to refresh your memory. Do you recall that?
Yes.
May I approach?
oh, she's going to crush the defense with their own exhibit that they used to refresh. Now she gets to use it. That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Are you finished with that problem? Demonstrative evidence.
Thank you, Judge. No problem.
Alec Baldwin's next movie coming up. It's only going to be on certain channels, though.
Have you had an opportunity to review that?
Yes.
How many pages is it?
It is 3 pages.
Does that document say anything about accidental discharge testing?
Objection.
That is that's a refresh of memory, so it doesn't have to.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to sustain his objection.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask this question and maybe let's see how it goes. Does it say anything about the gun being destroyed?
No. I'm sorry. No.
Did that document refresh your memory as to what you understood from the FBI about what the condition of the gun would be after the testing?
Yes.
It does.
Does refresh my memory. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you restate that?
Does that document, the question you were asked on cross-examination was about the information that,
Counsel,
okay.
I'm sorry to break you up, but let me give you these.
So it sounds like the witness misspoke, but Alex Spiro sees a life preserver, something he can use to salvage a little bit out of this train wreck that his cross-examination turned into. We're at the bench. I'll pop this back up until they stop talking. Now he's like, Your Honor, I want a recross because of that one answer from this witness. I got to have a recross, Your Honor. Please give me something, Coach. Coach, put me in. Put me in, Coach. I think Carrie just handed him the address of a funeral home. Oh. All right, they're coming back.
Ms. Popple, was a fanny pack collected from the set of Rust?
Yes.
Do you know who the fanny pack belonged to?
Yes.
Who's that?
That was Hannah Gutierrez.
And was any of the live ammunition found in the fanny pack?
No.
So after Ms. Hutchins was shot, do you know whether or not the gun was unloaded by anyone on the set?
The information that was relayed to me was that the firearm was emptied by Hannah onto the cart.
Fanny pack is a whole new meaning.
Does that
to
include
Alec
the
Baldwin
spent
now?
casing?
Yes.
It's become a verb. Fanny pack is a verb. Oh, good Lord. It's time, Alec. Get over here, son. Oh. Well, I'm glad some of you appreciate my humor. Obviously, I appreciate it. Oh, Lord.
I'll pass the witness.
That's it? So we're going to get some recross.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
The Good Samaritan asked you, in reference to the ammunition he provided, question, and that's the one that killed Halyna. And you said yes, correct?
I don't recall that.
Do you deny it?
I don't deny it.
No further questions.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take our afternoon bathroom break. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court, and let's try to get back in around 3:20. Okay, thank you.
And he only asked one question on recross because the judge told him. Only one question. This unbiased Good Samaritan. Oh, Lord. Let's see if I can pull this down. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. Sorry, folks.
On the bench conference, but we're in recess for all intents and purposes for bathroom break for the rest of you.
The lawyer's going to talk. Lawyer's up to the bench. Bring that over here. I want to share that clip. I did manage to cut out the clip of Baldwin walking out. Here is Alec Baldwin. Here's Alec Baldwin walking out of court earlier today. What time was it? Let's see. This is what I want. Come on. Oh, I'm sure. It was during this stuff. Did I not make a... Well, anyway, here's the video. Here's Alec walking out when they were after lunch, when they were doing this argument. Look at him. Look at the tension. That head's about to pop.
Well, it all goes.
It's about to
I think
pop.
We've got like three or four pages, so I think it all kind of goes together. Hang
This
on
is
just
not
a
live.
second.
This is from earlier today. It's like, I got to get that baby. I got to get that baby in here.
Okay, so
Where's Hilaria?
this
Hilaria.
part, I mean, the part at the bottom of 18,
There he goes.
it puts in context the part at the top of 19, and this goes directly
Where's my
to
escape?
Mr. Baldwin's motivation to lie about pulling the trigger of the gun. I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore.
There he goes. Oh, she gave away his age. Maybe that's...
He's talking about his
What's going on?
career,
where's he going?
and that he can't rely
Alec
on
Spiro,
luck anymore.
runaway
This goes
client.
Exactly
It's
to
the new Alec
his
Baldwin movie, The Runaway
motivation
Client.
not to tell the truth. Sorry.
What?
Can we approach briefly?
What happened to your client? What happened to your defense? And then I have a little clip when he comes back in. When he comes back in, he looks like an old man. It happens pretty quick. Sorry, folks, my editing skills are not world class, but when he comes back into the courtroom, he is not looking good. It'll transition and just, there we go. A few minutes later, Popple comes in and then Baldwin comes. There he is. Look at him. It's like, oh, I had a stroke. I'm ready for my presidential debate. Bring Trump in. Bring Trump in. I'm ready to debate him. I've been resting all week.
We're asking two different questions.
All right, that's it. That's all there was of that. Whoops. Yeah, he literally just got up and walked out. Can he still ask for a plea deal? Sure. Go ahead. Watch Carrie Morrissey say no. Of course he can ask for a plea deal. She's not going to give him a plea deal. Why would she? I still think fanny pack is now a verb, is the best joke of the day. That's what they do. They step into it. Alex Spiro made the same exact mistake with the script notations that he did with the CAD report. The CAD report with the first witness. When he had the first witness say, the CAD report's the printed report of all like the radio communications from the patrol car. It says, doesn't it say accident here, accident here, accident here, accident here, to suggest that, well, you know, he's responding to this Hutchins shooting. They keep calling it an accident. And then on redirect, Carrie Morrissey gets up there and says, isn't this like a car accident? And isn't this a different event? Do any of these references to accident? She goes through everyone. Does this accident refer to Hutchins? No. This one refer to Hutchins? No. Does this one refer to Hutchins? No. Turn the page. How about this one? Does this refer to Hutchins? No. This reference to accident refer to Hutchins? No. She must have done 20 of them. Oh my God. She just gutted Spiro. And he did it again with the stupid script notation. Adam cocks the gun. Adam slowly cocks the gun, or Harlan, or whatever his character name is. And Alex Spiro was bringing all that in for the weakest of reasons to suggest that, well, it says cock the hammer and it doesn't say press the trigger. So that means he cocked the hammer, but he didn't press the trigger. First of all, it doesn't mean anything of the sort. But the point is, all of those were scene instructions, and he was not filming a scene when he shot Halyna Hutchins. Was this reference to cocking the hammer? You know, that was to a scene, right? Was he filming a scene? No. What about this scene reference? Was he filming a scene when he shot Hutchins? No. Oh my gosh. A plea deal of 18 months. Maybe she would offer a plea deal of 18 months. Save everybody the agony. Maybe not, though. Maybe she wants to put this defense team through the agony. I think she might. The Good Samaritan. The mystery Good Samaritan. Oh, sorry, folks. I know I missed some of the questions from the members, but Branca, any thoughts on whether Alec would have been better off with criminal defense lawyers? Seems almost like these lawyers should have suggested or referred him. Maybe. The truth is they don't have much to work with. I mean, he's given them bad facts. This is involuntary manslaughter. I mean, if I were teaching criminal law in law school, this is what I would use as a textbook example of involuntary reckless manslaughter. He handled the gun recklessly. He pointed what he knew to be a real gun capable of shooting real bullets at another human being, cocked the hammer, pressed the trigger without ensuring there was not live ammo in the gun, and he killed somebody. That's knowingly creating an unjustified risk of death or serious bodily injury to another person and killing them as a consequence. That's a drunk driving killing. That's a classic reckless killing. Classic. And the people who object to this, he shouldn't be found guilty. They magically want the law to work differently on a movie set, or for there to be like a version of involuntary manslaughter for normal people and a version of involuntary manslaughter for movie sets. You're not allowed to kill people recklessly on movie sets either. Jeepers. What is wrong with people? I don't think he's going to Epstein himself. Not over 18 months. Come on. I mean, people like us don't do well in prison, but we can do 18 months. Anybody can do 18 months. Lose a little weight and make some new friends. Get fanny packed. Think of the documentary afterwards. It's a whole new Alec Baldwin. Stretching his acting, stretching his acting to beyond the limits he thought he could accomplish. Oh my gosh. What a circus. The Good Samaritan. The script, they don't know what the relevance is of. The CAD reports that have nothing to do with this shooting. All right, so that's most of the member comments. Let's take a look and see if there's any super chats. Come for the law, stay for the jokes, folks. Hey, I'm having such a good time. I forgot. This Sunday, we're doing a recap of the trial to date. There'll be more jokes. There'll be more legal analysis. I'll talk about the jury instructions and stuff. I'll talk about the jury instructions tomorrow morning before the trial proper starts. Usually I have of course I didn't have much time. We started early today. I plan to start at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, 8 a.m. New Mexico time, my local time too. But this Sunday, we're having a recap show. We'll do legal analysis of the trial to date, talk about the jury instructions, and my good buddy Adam Baldwin, not to be confused with Alec Baldwin or any of the Baldwin brothers, will be on the show. Adam has decades in Hollywood, in movies and TV, handling guns on sets. He's going to share that expertise with us, and he's just a fun guy to hang out with. Been a friend of mine for many, many years. And we're going to give away a $10,000 prize, to a lucky winner, and probably some other stuff, other prizes too. You have to be here to win. This will not be streamed on social media. It's not on YouTube. It's not on Rumble. It won't be on X. It won't even be streamed to Law of Self-Defense members, because I want to be able to, I don't want to have to worry about what I'm saying on YouTube and get some kind of suspension in the middle of the trial. So we set it up as a webinar. It's 100% free, doesn't cost a penny, but you do need to register. If you want to participate Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific time, you have to register. No cost, but you have to register to get a seat, so we can send you the login credentials at lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap, or just scan that QR code up there on the screen. It's going to be a good time, folks. We'll be a couple hours, lots of Q&A. You can do Q&A with Adam too, if you want. Assuming he's amenable, and usually he is. And when you go to that URL, lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap, it'll take you to, let me fix this page here. Just click that blue button and register for your 100% free spot at this Baldwin trial recap webinar on Sunday. But there's only 500 seats, folks. Our webinar license is good for 500 seats. That's it. Once the seats are full, they're full. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to grab those sooner rather than later. Again, that doesn't cost a penny, folks, but I want to be unfettered in what I can say and what I can show on screen. And I just can't do that on social media. So free webinar, lawselfdefense.com/trial recap. Trial recap is what you want to do. It's going to be a fun time. If you're enjoying this coverage, you'll enjoy that too. By the way, if you are watching on YouTube, let's see how many we got. 1,200? That can't be right. Can't only be 40 likes. Well, 400 likes, less than 400 likes. Only less than a third of you have hit the like button on YouTube. Folks, you're killing me. Come on. I don't even like YouTube. But, come on. We use it to reach all of you. So please, if you can, if you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Do whatever the equivalent is on Rumble. Subscribe on both of those. It's free. Subscribe. Hit the bell. If you like what we do, why not? You're getting this all for free. It's and I bet I have better jokes than some of the other channels covering this trial. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're doing. It seems like every law tuber I know is covering this trial, and I hope they all have great success. Great success. So let's see. Take a look at the comments again. Do you think Alec left and puked and then came back? He looked pretty shaky when he came back, man. He did not look good. That was not the face of a guy who feels like he's winning. You think he got some Amber Heard coffee? Remember her sipping vodka from that water bottle? The court officer finally took her water bottle away from her. Oh, that was a fun trial too. That whole morning was wasted. That whole morning was wasted. And part of the afternoon. Hours of cross-examination to absolutely no purpose by Alec Spiro. For Marissa Popple, one of the least important witnesses in this trial. She's just a crime scene tech. She didn't do anything sensitive. Oh my God, she's like, the assistant manager. I mean, and he spent 4 or 5 hours on her cross-examination. He's going to do this to every witness. And I don't think the judge is going to be sympathetic to the defense for this is exactly how they wasted time in all the pretrial hearings, all the pretrial motions. This judge is done with it. Done with it. You heard it today, right? They wanted some stuff redacted, or they wanted some, promised redactions kept. And the judge was like, nah, forget it. Forget it. I'm going to allow it. And the reason I'm allowing it, by the way, I just want you to know, is because you dragged this out. You wasted time. You wasted time. So we're done. We're done. It's coming in. Don't piss off the judge, especially a judge that's this reasonable. But unfortunately for Alec Baldwin, he gave his lawyers garbage to work with. I have to say, I am extremely disappointed with Alec Spiro for the defense. He really ought to be doing a better job than this. Just a smoother, more professional, fail with grace. I mean, do a swan dive off the cliff. Don't just like cascade down like a tumbleweed. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. I shouldn't laugh, right? I mean, a human died. But if you don't laugh, you'll cry. That's what I think. If you don't laugh, what are you going to do except cry? Let's see. Take another look at Super Chats. Eric, let's see. Eric the Younger. Yeah, I didn't see your Super Chat earlier, Eric. Eric sent me 2 because he thought I forgot the first $10 one. He sent me a second $5 one. Sorry about that, Eric. I didn't intend for you to have to do that. But his question is, based on the evidence in the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial, where do you think the live round actually came from? Just out of curiosity. The answer is I don't care. I don't care where it came from. I suspect it came from Hannah Gutierrez because she was just incompetent and sloppy. I think I'm speculating that she thought she might run low on blanks on dummies. So she decided to make some of her own dummies. It's not that hard to do. If I recall correctly, she had a bullet puller, a small hand tool bullet puller. The hammer type, right? The kinetic bullet puller in her motel room. You use that to separate the components of the round and you make your own dummies. It's not hard to do. But she was too sloppy and indisciplined to do this in a safe way. So I suspect she commingled her dummies with the live rounds she was making them out of and had this happen. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for Alec Baldwin because it doesn't matter where the bullet came from. Again, I've been sharing this. New Mexico, Supreme Court. Does it matter where the rounds came from? It could have made, this is a different involuntary manslaughter with a gun case, but the New Mexico Supreme Court, because everyone says, I didn't know the gun was loaded. Well, is that a legitimate defense to a charge of involuntary manslaughter, reckless manslaughter with a gun? New Mexico Supreme Court says it could have made no difference to the trial of a charge of involuntary manslaughter as to who loaded the gun. All that is necessary to establish for involuntary manslaughter by the use of a loaded firearm is that a defendant had in his hands, that's Alec Baldwin, a gun which at some time had been loaded, and that he, Alec Baldwin, handled it without due caution and circumspection, and that death resulted. So where the bullet came from, how it got in the gun is completely irrelevant for the Alec Baldwin trial. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's completely irrelevant for the Hannah Gutierrez trial. Whoever injected that live round onto the movie set, it was Hannah's job to make sure that every round on that cart, in the belt, in the holsters, in the gun, that she had personally inspected each and every one of those and excluded any live ammo. Both generally speaking, the moment, the day, the hour she gets the set, whatever gear, whatever bags, whatever she's carrying, there is no live ammo in that gun. Listen, I've got guns. I was a competitive shooter for many years. I didn't accidentally bring guns or bring live ammo when I went to the airport, when I went to court as a lawyer. You just don't do that. And that was her job. And it was her job not just because she might get in trouble at court security or with the TSA. It was her job because people would die if she didn't do her job, which of course is what happened. So I don't really care where the gun came from. What I care about is Hannah Gutierrez failed to screen out live ammo. She had one job, really, and that was it. And she screwed it up, and someone died as a result. That's involuntary manslaughter. So I hope that answers that question. And then Richards asks, $10 super chat. Thank you very much, Richard. This is crazy. How is it possible that anything the defendant says right after the alleged crime occurred can't be used? Nobody forced him to talk. It all feels state of mind relevant. Well, it's not hard to see how some of it could be prejudicial and not extremely relevant to the elements of the criminal charge. And to the extent it is somewhat relevant, that it might be cumulative. So I'm sympathetic to the judge restricting the quantity of some of this stuff. She's letting in enough for the prosecution to do their job, in my opinion. We're on an afternoon break right now. Yep. Right? It's still afternoon break. Yeah. Still got the seal. The seal. The seal is still up. Let me check Rumble. I don't know if anyone's ever done a Rumble rant. People keep asking me if I'm going to look at Rumble rants, and I keep saying yes, but no one ever does one. It's okay. Don't feel obliged, folks. I don't want you to feel obliged to do a Rumble rant. I'll put this back up for our Sunday recap. We're doing this as a webinar. Don't forget, you have to register. Sunday, when we stream, it's not going to be on YouTube or Rumble or X. It's going to be only on webinar. It's free. The webinar is 100% free, but you do have to reserve a seat at lawofselfdefense.com /trial recap. And you'll get to hang out with Adam Baldwin too. He's funny too. We laugh a lot when we hang out, as you might imagine. Long 15 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, that was a bad day for Alec. Bad day for Alex Spiro. We'll ask if the defense actually did offer a plea of guilty in exchange for a maximum sentence. Could the prosecution have any say? Well, the defense can't offer it; they can ask for it. But the prosecution could still say no. Well, no, he might appeal a plea. It's hard to do that, but he might appeal a plea, and we want our chance to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe we can't do that. I mean, maybe we won't be able to do that. It's up to the jury to decide. But we want, we got here. We're halfway through this. Well, halfway. 2 days into this trial. 4 witnesses. I can't believe the defense spent hours cross-examining Marissa Popple, the crime scene technician. What are they going to do with the Haigs? What are they going to do with the FBI firearms examiner? That low energy guy. All right, volume's back on. There are way more important witnesses in this trial than Marissa Popple. And we just spent like 5 hours on cross. I wonder if that's why we're a little. Oh, Alexandra's picking her nose right there on camera. That's classy. Oh, she's digging, digging for gold. And Alex too. Oh my God, it's contagious. Maybe the judge was telling everybody, listen, you're going to regret doing this. I am going to make you regret spending this much time in this manner. Who is this? I don't recognize this guy. It's another state witness number 5. I hope his lawyers aren't working for tips. This is not a customer you're going to expect a very good tip from. Stephen Baldwin does look a little weird, but hey, what can you do? Question, re the days. Does the judge have any remedy because the defense is obviously trying to run the stage clock out? Does she have a remedy? Well, she controls her courtroom. The defendant's entitled to due process of law, but she doesn't have to allow herself in her courtroom to be the subject of abuse by the defense. Or this defense would make this a 10-year trial if they could, right? At least for 10 years, their client's not in prison. And she was very tough. I mean, at the end of the pretrial hearings, it was like the defense was about to ask for a continuance, and she just double dog dared him. All right, jury's coming back in. I'll make myself small. Anybody remember the old Steve Martin skit? I think it was his first comedy album where he makes himself small. Instead of high, he's small. He's driving a car. That was the era when he was juggling kittens on stage.
The state calls Alessandro Pita.
Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I would.
I didn't catch his
Have a
last
seat, talk
name.
into the microphone.
Alexandro.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Good afternoon, sir. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Good afternoon. My name is Alessandro Pieta. I come from Italy.
Oh, Pieta.
I am a gun manufacturer. I'm actually the guy that made the gun that been used in the movie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You have to answer her.
Oh, sorry.
I appreciate all the
Sorry about that.
information, but I have to ask you a question and then you answer the question.
Sorry.
All right, so you've told us you're a gun manufacturer, is
Yes,
that
I
right?
am.
And what company do you own?
It's named Fab Fratelli Pieta.
Okay. And do you manufacture Pieta Firearms?
Yes, that's the name of the company in English.
How long have you been manufacturing firearms?
The company has been founded in 1963 from our dad, and my brother and myself are running the company since 2000.
And are you familiar with how Pieta Firearms are actually made?
Yes, of course.
And how are you familiar?
I've been working in the company since 1995, and I've been taught by my dad how to produce a gun, and assist my brother studying engineering in demo.
Does Pieta Firearms have quality control measures and inspections of their firearms?
Yes, we do.
And what are those?
We start from raw material, and then we check all the machining part, and then we got our quality control on the assembly department, and of course, before shipping the gun to the customer. So we got several steps in our procedure line.
And does Pieta Firearms use, what kind of manufacturing technology does Pieta Firearms use?
Well, we've been involved a lot in the industrial 4.0. That means that we are using the most actual manufacturing technology available on the market.
So you're basically high-tech technology?
Yeah, we use CNC machine, full control of robotic system. It's not just by hand, but also use the modern technology.
Okay.
Cool. I might have to buy one now. I didn't know they CNC those things. That's
So-
great.
Excuse me, what does Pieta Firearms do to ensure that a gun that leaves Pieta Firearms doesn't have any defects? And Mr. Pieta, if I can just have you pull the microphone a little closer and then speak a little slower.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
and then if you could just speak a little slower, please.
sure. We do have our quality control operation, but
That's the court
being
reporter
an
asking for
Italian
that.
manufacturer, by law, we had to send the gun to a national proof house. It's not a private company, but it's a public company. And all the guns that we produce, all the guns that are imported or made in Italy, need to be tested by this proof house. They have their own standard quality controls, and they also give us a certificate, and they stamp on the gun their marks. So there are different systems that we use to check the guns.
What is a proof house?
A proof house is a public company that shoot the gun, test the gun, take certain dimension. We have CIP homologations that is different from the American. It's called SANI, but they're very similar on the concept. We have certain dimension and be checked in order to be sure that the gun works properly. They also shoot the gun higher pressure, so they know that the gun will not blow up during your regular training section. And of course, they check all the safeties on the guns.
So before the gun leaves your company, Pieta Firearms, do you guys do checks of the guns first?
We do our own final check for quality reports. That means that we also looking for aesthetical defects. And of course, we do our own quality on the trigger pull or on the action to be sure that everything in proper situation.
And so in addition to that, then it goes to the proof house and they do their checks as well?
The proof house check the gun as a piece of steel, if you pass that name. I check the gun for the customer because they want to get a nice gun, so without any scratches or without any cosmetical defects.
Does that also involve checking the internal parts of the gun to make sure that there are no defects?
That done before by our quality control office, and we do that in the company.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 50.
No objection.
Imagine how much better the quality of
Your
this
Honor, being that there is no
revolver
objection, I
was
would
than
move
an
into
original
evidence
Colt.
State's Exhibit 50 and ask to have it published. On the screen in front of you, Mr. Pieta, is State's Exhibit 50. Do you recognize that?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
one
it?
of our single action revolver. Probably, actually, it's written 45 long Colt. That's the caliber, 7.5 barrel length.
Are you familiar with this particular gun?
I know this gun because I know that gun has been produced for a trade show called SHOT Show, and
Yeah.
has been shipped to Vegas. In particular for that show.
Were you involved in the manufacture of this particular gun?
I was personally involved producing this sample for that trade show.
And do you recall when this gun was
What luck.
manufactured?
I
luck for
guess
the state.
2016 or 2017.
What a break for
How
the
do you
state.
manufacture this particular firearm?
Well, I would not say manufacturer. I could say I prepare this gun because being a replica, we need to make our customer happy. And of course, our main customers are collectors. So when we prepare a new sample or a new model, we study the books. So we study the American history and we look for details just to make a new model. That's why I've been involved to introduce this gun during this trade show.
So you said this was a single action revolver.
This is a single action type revolver. It means that every time you want to shoot, you need to pull the hammer, cock the hammer, and pull the trigger.
Is that what a single action means?
Yes.
So you have to cock the hammer before you pull the trigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Na, 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 na.
Is this different from other Pieta single action revolvers?
It's different on outside because the details are different. We are not used to make any marks on the grip, or we are not used to write the caliber on the trigger guard. But this is basically is the same gun with a different configuration.
So are the internal components of this gun the same as for others,
Yes, correct.
Pieta?
Correct.
Are the internal components of this particular gun, are they interchangeable with other Pieta single action revolvers?
Yes, they do.
Now, is the hammer to this Exhibit 50 that we see in front of us, is that different from other Pieta revolver hammers?
As the sides of the hammer and being polished just to create a different color.
Okay. But is it similar in as far as specifications?
It's the same.
It's the same to other firearms? I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 6. If I can have the deputy bring it up and ask you to put on some gloves.
This guy would
Sure.
know where to find
Yeah.
good coffee. That's for sure.
No, I don't.
He has it
Oh,
right.
good. Thank you. Sure.
Alec better get used to seeing this. Those gloves have a whole new meaning now.
If you can open the box, Mr. Pieta. Do you recognize what's in there?
Yeah, it seems to be the same gun that's on the screen.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 51.
No objection.
I move into evidence 51, Your Honor, with no objection.
Case 51 is submitted, you may publish.
Now, if you can take a look at that firearm Exhibit 6 that's in front of you, does it have a serial number?
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to put on the screen State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, that's our invoice that probably has been used to ship the gun to EMF.
Does this invoice contain or list this particular gun that's in front of you, Exhibit 6?
Can I check the serial number?
Yes, please.
Can I touch the gun?
Yes,
The
with
gun?
your gloves.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same serial number.
Okay. So did Pieta Firearms then ship this gun, Exhibit 6, per this invoice?
Yes, we did.
And when and to whom was it shipped?
Has been shipped to EMF company. That is one of our customer that show with us during SHOT Show. So to get the gun inside United States, we need to get someone to get all the license to import the gun for us. That's why this sample has been shipped to EMF.
What kind of a company is EMF?
EMF is an importing company, and they sell to distributor, dealers, and to individuals.
Is EMF associated with Pieta Firearms?
Yes, it is.
How?
We, Alberto and myself, own EMF.
So you own EMF?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And so when did you ship this particular
Smart.
firearm that's
Vertical
in front
integration.
of you to EMF?
It's written on the invoice, 27 November 2017.
So that's when it left Italy to go to EMF?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me go back to ask you a question about this hammer. You had said that it's nickel plated because this was for a particular.
No,
this is
it's not nickel plated, it's just polished.
oh, polished. I'm sorry. Does that change its functionality?
No.
Okay. Did this particular gun go to the proof house?
Absolutely.
And was it approved by the proof house?
Mhm. Yes, it is.
And how can you tell?
Well, there are some marks on the frame that is clearly on the top of the serial number. So you can see them. There's also another proof mark on the cylinder. So they're easy to understand that this gun has been proved by the proof house.
And what does that mean to you as a gun manufacturer that's been approved by the proof house?
That we have produced a good gun, follow the CIP regulation, and the gun can be sold to anyone. Without that marks, we cannot sell or produce or export any guns.
Now, once it comes to the United States, do you know if your guns or these guns that you import are also subjected to testing by American agencies?
No, actually, all the guns that want to be imported in United States need to be approved by ATF first. So when we start producing this single action revolver, we send a sample or few samples to ATF agent, and they approve the gun for us.
Do you know what ATF does in order to approve the guns?
Mostly they have a schedule and with details, so they need to check if our guns, actually a gun, match their requests. And also they got they call drop test that is used to see if the gun is safe enough to avoid any kind of malfunction.
You said a drop test. What do you understand that to be?
Drop test means that the gun has to be approved. They have a safety, and in this particular gun, the safety is on the cylinder, and they put the safety on. They put a primer, not a light brown, of course, a dummy. They put the hammer in the first notch, so the firing pin is lined with the primer, and they take a weight, let it drop at 8 or 4 feet, something like that, 5 times. And again, the system should not shoot. If that is okay, they approve the gun.
And so does your Pieta firearm revolvers get put through that test by ATF?
Absolutely.
And that's to test to make sure it doesn't fire on its own?
No, that test means that we have safety on the gun.
Are you familiar with how this particular gun fires?
What that mean?
Well, what does it take to
You need to
make
put,
it
you
shoot?
need to cock the hammer and pull the trigger.
Do you know this gun that you have in front of you will fire without a pull of the trigger?
Actually, this gun cannot fire because from what I see is missing some parts. So,
Okay, I'm talking about when it was first
oh, sure, of
manufactured.
course.
Does it fire? Would it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No,
Why not?
because the mechanic, the design of the hammer and the trigger has been designed since Samuel Colt made this gun to work in that way.
And can you explain under what circumstances it will only fire?
Well, when you cock the hammer, the trigger will engage the firing knock position. That is the farthest one, so the last position of the hammer. And if you want to release the hammer, you need to pull the trigger. The trigger is just a sear that locks the hammer in that position. And if you want to do that, you need to pull the trigger.
Okay. Now, is there also a manufacturer's warning about whether or not the firing pin should be sitting on a primer?
Well, actually, it's not just a manufacturer, it's a standard rule between shooter when you carry your gun, in this particular gun, to load just only 5 ammo and not 6.
Why is that?
For safety reason. So you will know that you will not, if eventually the gun falls down, nothing happens.
What could happen if the gun falls down and the primer's...
Most of the time, nothing, because the hammer is against the frame. And so if you hit the round, the primer will not shoot the primer. So it's just a safety rule that has been taught to every kind of shooter. So I've been a shooter for myself, and that's what they told me to do. So load 5 rounds on the cylinder instead of 6.
And will it fire? Let's say you load 6. And what could happen if you load 6?
Nothing really, just need to know that you load 6 rounds instead of 5.
Okay, but if you have the firing pin on the 6th round?
If the firing pin is in the rest position when the hammer is down the frame, so the firing pin is not against the primer, nothing happens, because if you want to shoot the primer, you need to apply a certain quantity of force to shoot it. So you can get a thick touch on the primer, but the gun will not shoot.
If the firing pin is actually on the primer?
Close to.
Okay, but you had said that if the firing pin is on the primer and you drop the gun, what could happen?
Usually, it's based on the primer technology. The powder in the primer is not at the top of the primer, it's just a little in the middle. So you need to press it a little more. And when you reach that point, you can shoot the load under the firing pin.
So what I'm hearing you say, it sounds like the only way you can fire this gun is by pulling the trigger?
That's the way that should be done.
Is there another way to
No.
fire this gun?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let me ask you, what condition was this gun in when you shipped it, when Pieta shipped it to EMF?
As I said before, this gun has been produced for a trade show. So we ship the gun without the firing pin. That is mandatory for this trade show, that all the guns are saved. And doing that, there are inspectors that check all the guns for us and put a tag. So the consumer,
And they still find firing pins in the guns, by the
customers
way. Some of them
will know that they cannot use the gun to shoot to anybody.
That's what all the
So
guns. are
not having
inspected.
a firing pin in that gun while it was used in trade shows, does that alter it or change it in any way?
Well, you are missing one part. That's it.
But does it change any internal components of it?
No.
Now, did Pieta Firearms own EMF while during the time EMF owned this gun?
Yeah.
To your knowledge, did EMF do anything to this gun?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
It's not easy to get a 1911 to discharge around, even with the hammer down by dropping it.
Just a
The
couple more
firing pin is
questions,
the
Mr.
spring
Pieta.
in it.
When Pieta Firearms shipped this to the United States to EMF, did it send the firing pins with it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Really. Sorry.
How hard is it to install a firing pin?
Pretty easy. It's just a pin and that's it.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, but the
Sure.
other lawyers will.
Thank you.
All right, cross. Oh, we finally have Luke Nikas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pieta.
Good afternoon.
Just have a couple of questions for you. We'll be out of here quickly. I
Yeah,
heard you say that you personally made this gun. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it was shipped from your company, Pieta, in 2017?
Yeah, that's what is written on the invoice.
Between 2017 and October 2021, you don't know how this gun was handled by any particular individuals. Is that
No.
correct?
No, I have no idea.
Your knowledge of the gun's functionality was limited to November of 2017 when it was shipped from your company. Is that fair?
That's not correct because my knowledge about this gun was also during this trade show that's been held in January. So probably the last time I saw the gun was in January.
So roughly beginning of 2018. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And so you don't know what condition the gun was in on October 21st, 2021, when it was being used on the Rust set by Mr. Baldwin. Is that correct?
Correct.
And before the gun was sent to the FBI for testing in 2022, you were not asked to inspect the gun. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, the Santa Fe sheriff didn't ask you any questions about the gun at that time. Isn't
No.
that right?
Correct.
Or at any time,
I never see anyone except today.
even though you personally made it. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
And so the first time that you had seen the gun since about early 2018 was about 2 months ago. Isn't that right?
I saw the picture of the gun during a preview interview that we got on Zoom in a Zoom meeting.
Someone held up a picture of the gun on a Zoom meeting,
Yeah, this picture probably.
and that was the first time since 2017 you had seen the gun. Yes.
Well, of course, I got this picture on my computer, but I never recalled that was the one that was sent to everybody else.
And at that point, the gun was already broken. Correct, sir?
It's the first time I see the gun. I may say yes.
Great. Thank you. No further questions.
No, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
all the way from Italy for that. Good press, though. Good press for Pieta. I bet they sell a ton of guns off of this. I didn't know they were CNC machined. I guess everything is these days, but that'll give you pretty darn good quality control.
Who's your next witness?
Four o'clock.
Calls Justin Neal.
All right.
I don't know who this is either. So many new witnesses. I mean, maybe I'll recognize him when I see him. I don't remember this name. Oh, he does look kind of familiar.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony
Well,
you'll
he's
give
kind
in
of
this
a
case will be
generic
the truth,
American.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Have a seat, tuck into the microphone.
What's that hair? Is that like a Lego cap?
Yes.
Okay, I need it. Thank you. May I proceed, Your Honor? Good afternoon, sir. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Yeah, my name is Justin Neal.
And sir, how are you employed?
I own my own marketing firm.
And what kind of work do you do? What kind of marketing work?
My marketing firm is a very stereotypical ad agency, and we have another leg to our company where we recruit and manage sales reps for our clients,
What kind of clients do you have?
primarily outdoors.
And are you affiliated with Pieta Firearms?
Yes.
How?
Pieta's a little bit more robust than the other clients I have. I essentially handle North America for them as it pertains to sales and marketing. And I also handle EMF, which they are part of, as their sales and marketing person.
What is EMF?
Early Modern Firearms is an importer, and it's based out of Santa Ana, California. They have been in business for 65 plus years, and very much back in the day, they used to supply a lot of firearms, Pieta and otherwise, to Hollywood.
Who owns EMF at this time?
Alessandro and Alberto Pieta.
And how long have they owned EMF?
I believe 2017.
And what exactly is it that you do for EMF?
I handle, again, the sales of the guns that they have of Pietas. EMF only imports and distributes meaning sells to retailers, Pieta firearms. So I handle the sales of Pieta firearms through EMF through distribution.
Are you required to have a federal firearms license?
I am.
And why is that?
I am an RP on the FFL for EMF. There has to be two responsible parties, and the Pieta family or the Pietas entrusted in me to be one of the RPs on that FFL.
And RP is what?
Responsible party.
And what does the responsible party do?
The responsible party is responsible for the distribution, the importing of the firearms, and all the paperwork thereof.
So as the responsible party for EMF, are you also required to be aware of what transactions take place, what firearms are sold by EMF?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how EMF maintains its records of sales?
Yes.
In September of 2021, do you recall a transaction between EMF and a company called PDQ Arms and Prop?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recall that?
I recall that because I saw the actual sales record or the shipping invoice and the packing slip.
I'm going to show you, well, let me ask you this. How did PDQ contact you, or how is it that you guys learned that PDQ needed to purchase arms?
Yeah, they contacted EMF.
Okay. And what was the request for?
The request was for firearms that he saw on the website. EMF obviously has a website, and he wanted some revolvers. And at that time, 2021, was the heart of the pandemic, and Pieta and every manufacturer, gun manufacturer, was back ordered. So we didn't have any. The lady in which he talked to initially said, we do have display guns that we show at trade shows.
That's how it happened.
And so we offered,
Interesting.
we didn't offer, we said we had those guns.
Okay. Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 52.
Fascinating. I wonder how they got a trade show gun.
No objection.
Here, I
Man,
would say
even
we go
Pieta
to
was sold out
evidence 52.
during COVID. Imagine being scared into buying your first gun and all you can get is a single action revolver.
Do you recognize that?
I recognize it, yes.
What is it?
It is a Pieta single action revolver.
And how do you recognize that is a Pieta single action revolver?
Because that was a display gun that we had at some of the trade shows in which I attended and I monitored.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted as States Exhibit 6 and ask you to put on some gloves and take a look at that gun.
Okay.
Getting a little intimate here. The volume should be okay. I've got it bumped up. Alec Baldwin's getting PTSD every time they put these blue gloves on. What do you call this model? We call it the prison wallet. And they need extra fat gloves.
Yes, please. Do you recognize States Exhibit 6?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the same gun that's shown on screen, a Pieta single action revolver.
So it's the same gun as depicted on 52? State's Exhibit 52?
Yes,
And tell me, was this one of the guns that was sold to PDQ?
yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as stated. Keep that in front of you because I may ask you some additional questions. If you can just close the box, but I will ask you some additional questions. Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 53.
No objection.
We'd move into evidence State's Exhibit 53.
State's
No
53 is
objection.
admitted.
This
Mr.
might
Neal,
be
do you
new.
recognize what's in front of you as State's Exhibit 53?
Yes,
What is it?
it is a shipping report, and that is shipping invoice
From whom to whom?
from EMF to PDQ.
And when was that?
It was in 21, order date 9/29/21.
Okay. So on September 29, 2021, were these firearms that are listed on this invoice shipped to PDQ?
Yes,
And is Exhibit 6 that's in front of you one of those firearms that's on this invoice?
yes.
Which one is it? You can actually touch the screen and it'll mark.
Oh, well, okay.
Why don't make one big red mark and cover the entire screen?
I'd have to see the serial number.
Okay, so
On the
if you want to
gun?
look at the serial number of the gun in Exhibit 6. Actually, if you want to open it and you can check the serial number.
Yeah, it's right here.
Those fingers should come with hot
Is it
dog
on the
buns.
camera? It might be your gloves.
It's the third one. I've got gloves on.
Okay.
It's the third one.
So,
I like her hair. I like her Linda Johnson's
E5,
hair.
2,
I guess I'm stuck in the 80s
7,
too.
this one right here?
Yes,
So
80s was a good
the
decade.
number 3, the third gun on the invoice is Exhibit 6.
We won't see times
Yes.
like that again.
Now, let me ask you, when did you become affiliated with EMF?
2018.
And do you recall approximately, was it beginning, mid, end of 2018?
And
When you became affiliated with EMF, did EMF already have Exhibit 6 in its inventory?
yes,
And did this gun, Exhibit 6, remain with EMF from the time that you were with them until September 29, 2021?
yes.
And what did EMF use Exhibit 6, this particular gun, for?
To display at primarily industry trade shows, business to business shows, B2B shows.
That's shot.
So it was owned by the company the entire time?
Yes,
Did EMF do any work on this gun?
no,
Did EMF inspect it for quality assurance purposes?
before each show, functionality. It wasn't, they didn't take apart the gun or anything, just to make sure it functioned properly. And then they would put it in what we call a sock, which is basically a soft case.
And when you say functionality, what does that mean?
That the gun works properly, not firing it, never fired, just the 4 traditional click of a Colt firearm, and the trigger work properly.
And at any point during 2018 to September of 2021, was there any indication that this gun malfunctioned or had any defects?
No,
What condition was it in when it was sold to PDQ on September 29, 2021?
it was in perfect condition as far as I know.
You said that how often was this gun checked for functionality while it was owned by EMF?
We do approximately 5 shows a year, and so at least 5 times.
And you say 5 shows, does that mean, is it in a display case?
It
or-
is in a locked glass display case.
So people can't just come and grab it?
They can't grab it, no.
Do you also, well, let me ask you this before we move on to the next topic. When this gun was shipped to PDQ, do you know what it was shipped in?
Yeah, EMF follows standard operating procedures, which they do for any gun shipped, whether it's to a dealer, a big box store, distributor, influencer. It is in Pieta makes and supplies EMF with a very hard styrofoam box that's molded for single action. And it's placed in there, then a cover over the top of it that's fit to it, and then another cardboard box sleeve that slides over the top of that, sealed, and then it is put into another shipping box with whatever
Wow.
other guns or accessories the attended person or store requests.
Would that have been the manner in which it would have been shipped to PDQ?
Yes.
Do you also handle customer service calls for Pieta guns in the United States?
I handle quite a bit of the customer service calls, yes. Not all, but a lot.
Approximately how many would you say?
Over the years, since 2018, I probably on average handle 5 or 6 a month.
Okay. Have you ever received a complaint or a call about a Pieta revolver going off by itself?
Never.
Are you familiar with how this particular gun fires?
Am I familiar with how it fires?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Does it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No.
I have a moment here.
Yes, I'm here.
He's looking at her like, you dumb? You seem smart. You retarded? You hide it. Nice hair. I like your hair. You got pretty hair. That's it.
Mr. Neal, if this particular gun, Exhibit 6, if it had displayed any defects in functionality, would it have still been shown at trade shows?
No.
Why not?
The purpose of Pieta or EMF going to a trade show is to sell firearms to FFL dealers, holders, not the public, but sporting goods stores, if you will. And if a buyer who wanted to specifically see this gun or any other was to hold it under our watchful eye, of course, and it was defective, he would probably not buy that gun or any other gun that we have.
So would it be fair to say you put the best of the best that Pieta has to offer?
Absolutely.
May I have a moment? Yeah.
I've handled guns at trade shows and they broke in my hand. That Remington pistol they had for a while. What was that called? That terrible
Thank you, Mr.
pistol.
Neal. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
It's off the market now.
We have no questions from this witness, Your Honor.
No
Thank you.
questions.
Excuse, sir. Thank you. Next witness.
It's 4:11 local time.
Give me just a minute, we're just a little out of order.
No cross of the importer dude. Anybody know what that pistol was? The R51. The R51. Remington had several on display at SHOT Show, and they had a whole row of them because it was newly released. A lot of favorable media coverage, and I picked the first one up and I cycled the slide and I broke it. It wouldn't go back into battery, and I thought, oh, that's weird. And I picked the next one and I cycled it, and something else broke on the gun. I forget what. And then I was afraid to touch a third one, but I thought to myself, I don't think these are going to do well. Presumably, when you put them out at SHOT Show, you're putting out the creme de la creme. You'd think you'd have everyone personally armored to make sure it was perfect. And I broke 2 of them in about a minute. Just normal operation of the gun. That was, yeah, that was too bad. How do you sign up for that 99-cent membership? Good question. Where is it? Right here. They're trying to find a witness. Sign up, become a law self-defense member, get all your questions and comments addressed for free. Try it out for 2 weeks. That'll easily get you through this trial at lawofselfdefense.com/trial for a 2-week trial membership for 99 cents. If you don't like it, just cancel. It's fine. We won't take it personally. No questions asked. If you stay a member, it's still cheap. It's only 30 cents a day, less than $10 a month. And look at all the jokes you get. Law and jokes. You can't beat that. You can't beat that, folks. At lawselfdefense.com/trial. And don't forget, this Sunday, our big webinar and $10,000 prize giveaway with my buddy Adam Baldwin. This will not be streamed on social media. It's a webinar. You have to register. Registration is 100% free, doesn't cost anything, but our webinar platform only holds 500 people. So first come, first served. When those seats are full, then this thing is full. We'll recap the trial. My buddy Adam Baldwin will be on to talk about his experience handling gun on sets. We'll give away a $10,000 prize. They're calling Alexandria Hancock. Sign up for that webinar at lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap. She used to work at Hooters.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. All right, thank you. Have a seat.
She flirted with Baldwin on that initial police interrogation, and he just blathered and blathered, gave up his
State your
best
name for the
defenses.
record, even though I know it's repetitive.
Alexandria Hancock.
And how are you currently employed?
I am a corporal with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department?
It will be 7 years in November.
And how did you become involved with this case?
In 2021, I was a detective with the Sheriff's Office. I was assigned to the Violent Crimes Division. On that day, we had received a call for a shooting at a movie set on the Bonanza Creek Ranch.
And you said you were on duty, and I'm sorry if I didn't hear you. What were you at the time? Were you a corporal?
No, I was a detective.
And did you show up to the scene there at Bonanza Creek Ranch?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what time?
I believe it was between 2:30 and 3 p.m.
And so can you kind of give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury an idea of what was going on? Were you the only detective on scene? Were there other detectives? What was happening?
Yeah, so when we had originally, it's called a briefing, essentially, back at our office, at the Sheriff's Office, we had a short briefing with all the detectives that were there that day about what had been learned thus far as to what occurred on the ranch. And so during, or I should say after that briefing, the detectives were assigned at that point on who would be handling and who would be assisting. And then from there, the entire team of us went out to the ranch.
So approximately how many people were in the team?
I want to say maybe 5 or 6 of us.
And how does the Sheriff's Department traditionally, is one detective named primary, or are there more than one? How does that work?
Just one is primary, and then typically they will have a secondary just depending on the case.
And how did it work out with this case?
Originally with this case, a different detective, his name's Joel Cano, was assigned the primary detective, and then I was assigned secondary.
And just so that we're clear, at some point, did you become primary?
Yes.
And at what point was that?
Probably at least a couple weeks later.
Okay. Now, in that interim, in those 2 weeks, were you actively working on the case?
Yeah, I was assisting with it.
And as the assisting detective, did you conduct interviews with witnesses on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
Who did you interview on that day? And then we'll back up.
Okay. On that day, I interviewed Hannah Gutierrez Reed, David Halls, and Alec Baldwin.
So I want to be clear, you as the assisting detective interviewed all 3 of the people that were ultimately criminally charged.
Yes.
So if you were interviewing all of those, what I'm going to call sort of main players, what was the primary Detective Kano doing?
He was, on the day of the incident, he was interviewing the numerous people that needed to be interviewed back at the ranch.
And give us an idea of who those folks were.
That Detective Kano interviewed. They were people that were said to be inside the church at the time of the incident, or members that assisted with the armor.
Why was it necessary to have 2 detectives doing interviews at the same time?
Because of how many people were involved.
Okay. And have you continued to be the primary investigator with the Sheriff's Department on this case since 2 weeks after the incident?
Yes.
Now, when you were dispatched, well, it sounds like you weren't really dispatched, were you?
No.
Who called you in?
My lieutenant at the time, which was Mike Martinez.
And you indicated that you had a briefing.
Yes.
And tell us kind of what information you got at the briefing that you had before you went out to the scene.
Yeah, so during our briefing there at the office, we were told that there was a movie being filmed at Bonanza Creek Ranch, and then sometime during that day, shortly before we were called in for that briefing, that 2 people had been shot on the set.
Did you receive information that the shooting had been characterized as an accident?
I do recall reading that on our CAD.
And as a detective with the Sheriff's Department, when you get called to a shooting that's being characterized as an accident, does that mean to you that there will be no criminal charges?
No.
Have you been dispatched or involved in accident investigations in the past that turned into criminal cases?
Yes.
So I just want to be clear. I know that the jury's heard some of this. So you interviewed Hannah Gutierrez, correct?
That's correct.
And what role did she have on the set?
She was the main armorer on Rust.
And you also indicated that you interviewed someone named David Halls. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall what his role was on the set?
He was the assistant director.
First assistant director.
And then, of course, you interviewed Mr. Baldwin, and we understand that he's an actor, correct?
Correct.
I want to just take you back for a moment. During opening, did you hear the defense attorney say that Sarah Zachary was not interviewed on October 21st?
I did hear that.
Is that correct?
No.
Was Sarah Zachary actually interviewed on October 21st?
She was.
Who interviewed her?
Detective Joel Kano with the assistance of Detective Ray Arndt.
And who was Sarah Zachary?
She was the props master for Rust.
If you would try to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the relationship between the prop master and the armorer based on your understanding.
What I understood between the prop master and the armorer, as it pertains to Rust, is that they're technically two different departments. They have different functions, different roles, do different things. But in the case of Rust, the prop master and the armorer assisted each other because of how what they would describe to be prop heavy this movie was.
And did you get an understanding of when we say prop, exactly what we're talking about?
Yes.
So one of these gun holsters, would that be a prop?
Yes.
Would the guns themselves be props?
Yes.
Even the live gun, the real guns, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
And the ammunition, would that be considered a prop?
Yes.
Okay. And does that also include glasses and cups and plates and silverware?
Yeah, anything that an actor would use in a scene, excluding like wardrobe items.
Okay. And I understand that you indicated that Ms. Zachary was interviewed on the 21st of October by Detective Cano. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with Sarah Zachary at a later date?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I believe it was sometime in November.
So just the following month?
Yes.
And you testified that you conducted an interview with Hannah Gutierrez on October 21st. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with her at a later date?
Yes, I did.
And approximately when was that, if you recall?
I want to say that was in November as well.
And
She had gotten rid of her colored hair by then.
21st, correct?
Hannah.
Yes.
And did you have subsequent contact with Mr. Baldwin after the interview that you did on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
And how were you having contact with him? Was he in New Mexico, or how was that happening?
No, he wasn't in New Mexico at that point, but I would receive phone calls and sometimes text messages.
From Mr. Baldwin?
Yes.
The original Hawk Tuah girl.
Generally speaking, was it Mr. Baldwin reaching out to you or you reaching out to him?
It was him reaching out to me.
So he had your cell phone number?
Yes, my department cell.
And just to be clear, do the defense attorneys also have your contact information?
They do.
Have they sent you text messages?
I don't know exactly her title, but members from their team, yes.
Okay, so they actually have your cell phone number.
Yes.
And you've made yourself available to them.
That's correct.
And you do that whether I'm there or not, right?
Yes.
With regard to
Alec needs a bigger pad if he's going to
your
draw those.
November interview with Ms. Gutierrez, did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez about who loaded the gun?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That she loaded the gun herself.
And did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez concerning the box of ammunition that was holding that one suspected live round?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That it would be a box that she would have provided.
Objection, hearsay, unless this is information acted upon.
So my response, unless you want us to approach, is that these are statements against interest and they come in under that exception.
I don't believe that they are, but like I said, if it's information acted upon and we can cross on it. It's fine.
All right, go ahead.
Did you have conversations? Well, let me ask you. Ms. Gutierrez indicated that she brought that box of ammunition on the set. Is that right?
That it was similar to one that she would have provided.
During that interview, did she produce a photograph for you?
She did.
And the photograph that she produced, did she tell you where she got it?
I don't know if she said in that interview exactly where she got it, but she did describe it to be a box like that was in the photo would be what she provided.
And the photograph that she showed you during the interview, did it match exactly the label on the box that contained the live ammunition?
Yes.
As you sit here today, do you have any question about who introduced the live ammunition to the set of Rust?
No.
Who do you believe it was based on your investigation?
Hannah.
Did you have conversations with Ms. Gutierrez about her firearms training?
The one that she conducted?
Yes,
or her own
specific-
experience?
No.
Objection, hearsay.
I think we should approach. You will not want to?
Oh, go ahead. Come on, up.
Go ahead. Come on, up, up. Who was the judge in the shooting of the immigration lawyer in the Kia Soul, who was so grumpy? The lawyer was grumpy. He was great. I covered so many of these cases, I can't remember. Defendant had the lawyer in the fancy suit, the big watch. Borowski. He was great. If Borowski and Judge Summer met up, they'd be perfect together. Perfect for growing old together. Supposed to be an 8-day trial, ending next Friday. But today the defense spent 5 hours cross-examining a relatively unimportant witness. One. B. Ivory was a defense lawyer. He had nice suits. I'll give him that. He had nice suits. Anthony O keeps yelling at me about my website for this trial recap on Sunday, saying it doesn't work on mobile. I think it works. I don't know. But he says it's costing me money. It's not costing me money. I'm not charging anything for the Sunday recap. It's free. I just need you to grab a seat if you want to attend. lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap. And throwing a metric ton of exclamation marks at me, it's not gonna change anything. So are you related to Alec Baldwin by any chance? Oh, for membership. I'm an idiot now. I texted my staff, Mr. Exclamation marks.
You conducted an interview with Mr. Baldwin, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you learn during that interview whether or not Mr. Baldwin received any training regarding the use of these firearms?
Yeah, he had mentioned that he did a training session
With
shortly after with he said Hannah, which was the armorer, and then I believe he said Sarah and their assistant Nicole was there.
Okay.
Stephen Baldwin looks like Whitey Bulger back there, like a young Whitey
And
Bulger.
Did you interview Seth Kinney?
Yes, several times.
How many times do you think you talked to him?
I don't know if I could.
Until I ghosted him.
I'm not sure I could put a number on it. I don't know. Probably at least between 5 and 10.
Okay. And was Mr. Kinney cooperative with you?
Yes.
He wasn't ready to settle down.
Did you request any search warrants in this case?
Yes.
What search warrants were requested?
I had drafted the search warrant for the prop truck as well as the search warrant for PDQ.
And PDQ, is that Mr. Kinney's business?
Yes.
Let me ask you, have you ever worked on a movie set before?
No.
And have you ever investigated a crime on a movie set before?
No.
On October 21st, 2021, did you know what a prop truck was?
No.
At some point through your investigation, did you learn what a prop truck was?
Yes.
And what's a prop truck?
It was an area that was used for storage.
Storage of?
This particular prop truck?
Yeah.
It was actually multiple departments that were using it. I don't know exactly which ones, but the armorer and the props department had approximately half of like the back of the truck.
And I think we heard previous testimony from Ms. Popple that the search of the prop truck didn't happen until the 27th of October, I think.
Yes.
Is that right? What was the delay?
Well, I was not the case agent at that time, and so I really wasn't the one in charge of the investigation. And so what happens with your case agent is they kind of develop the flow and decide what's needed based on the information that they have and what we need to get.
What was one of the first things that you did when you became the primary on this case?
Started reviewing a lot of information.
How long after you became primary did you request a warrant for the prop truck?
Well, I wasn't the primary at the time that I requested that warrant. I was assisting.
Okay.
And so, I mean, between the day that the incident occurred, which was the 21st, and then the day that the search warrant was, I think, applied and executed for was the 27th. So 6 days.
And was the prop truck secured during that time?
Through my interviews, I found out that it was secured.
And how was it secured?
So the set, one of the individuals that worked on the set of Rust.
Objection, you're set. Move to strike. Unless she knew it at the time.
This is information that she learned during her investigation.
But afterwards, it has nothing to do with.
Ask her when did you get that date?
In terms of when she learned?
Yes.
When did you learn? Let me ask you this. When you showed up on the 27th of October, did anyone meet you at the prop truck?
Yes, and then we also had deputies that went out there at least a couple days before we had drafted that search warrant to secure the truck with 24-hour surveillance.
So when you went to the prop truck on the 27th, did someone have to meet you there to open it?
Yes.
Who had to meet you there to open it?
Her name was Ro Walters.
Okay. So on that day, did you understand that it was locked?
Yeah, inaccessible.
Okay. Because she had to open it for you.
Correct.
And other than props generally, tell us what other things were stored inside that truck.
There was a firearm safe with firearms in it. There were firearms outside of that safe. I think there were like a bunch of chairs in it and maybe some like shade tents and stuff like that. There was quite a bit of stuff.
After you were let into the prop truck and it was unlocked for you, describe for us the safe. How big is it?
Maybe about 4 feet tall and maybe about a foot wide.
And
Foot.
did someone have to come and
I love
unlock
women not
that
being able to
safe
tell
for
lane.
you?
Yes,
Who was that?
Seth Kenny.
And when you executed the warrant on the prop truck, as it relates to this case, just summarize for us what you found. I mean, we don't care about tables and chairs and stuff.
Additional firearms, more ammunition. I think that was kind of the major things that we got off of it.
And are you familiar with the ammunition that was provided to the set of rust by Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Where was that ammunition found?
Inside of the prop truck in a bag.
And when you say in a bag, was it inside something else?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Was it just loose in a bag?
Well, it was inside of a box that was inside a duffel bag type thing.
Okay. And is it also, did you locate a black gun belt?
I don't think I was the one that located that.
Okay, all right, no problem. And we understand that you also executed a search warrant on PDQ, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was on November 30th, I think we heard?
Yes.
So prior to executing that search warrant, had Seth Kenny talked to you about live rounds?
I don't, yes, I believe so.
Do you recall, did Seth Kenny at some point bring live rounds to you?
He did.
Do you know whether that was before you searched PDQ?
It was before.
So you knew before you searched PDQ that he had live rounds because he took them and told you?
Yes.
Did you receive information prior to the search at PDQ regarding a green ammo can?
I did.
Who did you receive that information from?
From Thel Reed, which was Hannah's father.
In part, was it based on the information from Hannah's father that you executed the search warrant on PDQ?
Yeah, the information I learned from him was some of what I used.
And just to be clear, I want to be clear, the reason that you went and searched PDQ, one of the reasons is because Mr. Reed said Seth Kenny's got live ammunition, right?
Yeah, he did say that. He actually said that he was the one that picked up that live ammunition.
Who was?
Thel.
Thel picked it up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Corporal, did it occur to you that Thel Reed may be giving you inaccurate information to protect his daughter? What?
I mean, unless we're going to be able to ask witnesses.
Well, continue.
I'm just asking you, I'm not asking about anybody else. Did it occur to you when you took the information from Mr. Reed and got the search warrant, did you know who to believe at that point in time?
No.
Okay. And I want to be clear, did Mr. Reed, and this is just why you did what you did Mr. Reed indicate to you that the ammunition at PDQ he thought was the same ammunition on the set of Rust?
Yes.
Did that turn out to be true?
No.
Even though, well, let me ask you this, the live ammunition that was collected from PDQ, did it just visibly look dissimilar to the live ammunition from Rust?
Yes.
Even though it looked dissimilar, did you send it to the FBI for testing anyway?
We did.
Did you ever discover any evidence throughout your entire investigation that Seth Kinney supplied live rounds to the set of Rust?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Seth Kinney was present on the set of Rust until you met him at the prop truck?
No.
During your investigation, did you ever discover any evidence that Mr. Kinney modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Ms. Gutierrez modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever formally arrest Ms. Gutierrez?
No.
Does that have anything to do with whether or not she was ultimately convicted of a crime?
No.
Did you ever arrest Dave Halls?
No.
Do you know whether or not he was convicted of a crime at some point?
Yes, he was.
And the fact that you arrested him or didn't arrest him, did that have anything to do with it?
No.
Does as a law enforcement officer, do you always arrest people who then later are criminally charged?
Sorry, you mean like arrest them right away? And
Do
then...
they have to be arrested in order to be criminally charged?
No.
Why would you not arrest someone?
To develop the investigation, if we're still waiting or investigating facts, trying to find information, and to get potential suspects or witnesses, whoever is involved, to cooperate with law enforcement.
Who makes the final charging decision in a criminal case?
You do.
The district attorney's office, essentially.
The prosecutor does, right?
Yes.
You guys don't. The law enforcement officers don't, correct?
Right.
Now, in addition to searching the prop truck and searching PDQ, did you also ask to search cell phones?
I did.
And whose cell phones did you search or ask to be searched?
I requested searches of Alec Baldwin's cell phone, Hannah Gutierrez's, David Hall's, and Sarah Zachary.
Did you review all of those cell phone extractions?
I did.
And when you review the cell phone extraction, what do you get to see? Do you get to see text messages?
I do.
Do you get to see photographs?
Yes.
When you reviewed the photographs from Ms. Gutierrez's cell phone, did you notice anything that stood out to you?
I did.
What was that?
There was a photograph taken, I believe it was maybe end of November, that she was there was two bullets, 2 rounds, and I believe her hand, and it caused a little bit of concern. And then I think I actually had found a couple photos of it, and one of the bullets in that photograph was circled, you know, kind of how you can edit a picture, and it said, I believe it was dud on top of it.
That bullet that was circled that said dud on it, was it a Starline brass casing?
It was.
Did it have a nickel primer?
Yes. Well, silver.
Silver, nickel.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in terms of the color.
Yes.
And in terms of the projectile shape, did it match the live rounds from the set of Rust?
It did.
All right, counsel, we're going to stop for the day. Jury, I want you to, instead of 8:30, I want you to be here at 9:30 downstairs. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Why would you ever touch another person's phone? It's so gross. I want those blue gloves.
Oh, there's an exhibit. She's talking. Oh, exhibits.
That court reporter is looking for a talent agent.
While I'm taking a break, I want you all to get your exhibits over here. Everything. Okay. Lock up for the day. I'll be back to the head. Okay?
The judge wants them to get their exhibits in order. There was some exhibits confusion again today. The judge does not like that. She likes her court to be orderly. All right, folks. So that looks like that's largely it for the day. Let me close that. I'll take a look at questions and comments before I sign off. But before I do that, I will mention again this Sunday, we're doing a trial recap. We'll review the trial proceedings up to today. We'll have clips, highlights of what's been most exciting, like Alec walking out of court today, staggering back in like a drunk a few minutes later. We'll have some of the killer moments of Kerry Morrissey or whatever else might happen tomorrow. We'll go over the jury instructions a bit. I might cover the jury instructions again, the proposed jury instructions tomorrow morning. Court's going to start late, it sounds like, an hour late. But I'm going to be here. I'll be here 10:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Mountain time. Yeah, and I'll do a review of the jury instructions. It won't take that long. But I like to get here early so I can, I so often have IT issues and stuff like that. So we'll get all that straightened out before court happens. Don't forget, Sunday we're doing our recap. It is free, but it is a webinar so that I can say things and show things that would get me in trouble on social media. And because it's a webinar, our webinar platform only allows for 500 people. 500 people. So when those seats are gone, they're gone. You can grab your seat at lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap. We're going to do a review of the case trial to date, have clips and stuff. My buddy Adam Baldwin is going to join us. Adam, of course, many decades acting in Hollywood, movies and TV. Many of those roles involve the handling of guns on sets. He's going to share that expertise with us. We'll have a few laughs. And then we're going to give away a $10,000 prize, $10,000 prize to a lucky winner. But you do need to be present to win. Grab your seat now or scan that QR code on the screen. lawofselfdefense.com/trial recap. Grab it, grab it, grab it. Did Adam leave Twitter? I actually wasn't aware of that. We usually just we text message back and forth. In fact, did he message me today? Okay. Nope, doesn't look like it. So that's our plan for Sunday. If you want to be there for the fun, we'll have jokes, we'll have laughs, we'll have legal analysis, and much, much more. And of course, that $10,000 prize that we're giving away. I think somebody's going to be extremely, extremely happy. Don't forget your exclamation points for Branca. Yeah, bring all your exclamation points. So that's what we'll be doing Sunday. So I encourage you to do that. Tonight, in just about an hour at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'll do a 1 hour recap of today's events, or less. I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. And that'll be about it. Yeah, Anthony, I didn't have anybody do anything to you, but you might have gotten tiresome to one of the mods. They might have, I don't know, paused you or something. All those exclamation marks. So that's all of that. So tonight. So just about an hour from now, I'll do a recap of today's events. And meanwhile, let's take a look at questions and comments. And that was Corporal Alexandra, Fish Lips, Hooters, Hancock. When they interviewed Alec Baldwin for his interrogation, immediately after the shooting event, they gave him Hancock was one of the detectives. The other detective was also a woman. And they just suckered him in, man. He saw 2 backwoods, New Mexico sheriff's deputies, females, and he thought he would just charm his way out of there. And he buried himself. He buried his legal defenses, the legal arguments that he could have had, that I would have raised for him. He buried himself in that stupid interrogation without a lawyer present, out of arrogance, because he thought he'd be smarter than everybody else. That's it. Got suckered in by a pair of fish lips. Let's see. Yeah, I'm surprised too. I see someone here in the law self-defense comments saying it seems weird she went from detective to corporal. I've never been a cop and I've never served in the military, but I would tend to think if it was a quiz question, that detective would be someone of higher rank than corporal, but apparently not the case. I don't think she got demoted. And sometimes detective is a kind of a job function and corporal is a rank, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant. Any of them could be a detective, right? You could have a corporal detective, a sergeant detective, lieutenant detective. I'm not sure how that works in New Mexico. You'd want to have a certain number of years of experience, right? Proof of capability. Like LaFleur, the first sheriff's deputy who arrived at the scene, you wouldn't have wanted him to be the detective, right? I think we can all agree. Yeah, Alexandra Hancock she told Alec Baldwin, oh no, I think it was during the second Hannah Gutierrez interview when she had Jason Bowles, her defense attorney, present. She mentioned to Jason Bowles that she used to work at Hooters, and Jason Bowles, for the first time, looked up he was tapping away on his cell phone. Suddenly he was very interested in Corporal Hancock of Hooters history. No kidding. He used to work at Hooters. Yeah, I love Hooters. Let's see. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got for comments? Not a good day. This is today's face of Baldwin was not the face of someone who was winning this trial. This is my daily screen capture of Baldwin. Let's see. Did I save it here? Oh my God. I have one from yesterday and one from today. So this was my screen capture of Baldwin yesterday. That was yesterday. It didn't get much better today. This is not the face of someone who thinks he's winning. Not by a long shot. But, he largely made his bed. I just don't have any sympathy for him. He knew he was handling a real gun. And he pointed it at a woman and a mother, pointed it right at her, and cocked the hammer and pressed the trigger. And he didn't bother to make sure. It would have taken a moment to make sure there was no live ammo in the gun. His daughter was supposed to have a bit part in that movie. You think if the script called for him to point that gun at his daughter and cock the hammer and press the trigger, you think he wouldn't have made damn sure there wasn't a live round in the gun? You think if the script had called for him to put the muzzle to his head and cock the hammer and pull the trigger, he wouldn't have made damn sure that there wasn't a live round in the gun? But when it came to Halyna Hutchins, it wasn't that important. That's the utter disregard for human life. That's the recklessness. And it doesn't matter where the bullet came from. Oh, someone had asked about the Gilliam court decision I cite. Let me pull it up here. I can give you the citation. I'll put it in the comments. I don't know if that person who was asking for it is still here. I wonder if I have a shortcut link to it. I do. You can also go to here. Let me do this. I have it on the Law of Self-Defense website. There's the citation. Let's see if that works with a link. lawofselfdefense.com/Gilliam. Gilliam's the defendant. He might testify if the trial continues going this poorly. He might testify, and if he testifies, Kerry Morrissey will destroy him. Destroy him because he's made too many inconsistent statements, too many damaging statements, too often, too many different times. But I certainly hope he testifies. That'll be great. That'll be great for audience numbers, for sure. Hey, Will Parker. I see Will Parker's in the chat. Will, you and I, we need to connect about a motorcycle trip in September. I have a trip I'm committed to doing down to Vegas and SoCal, and you probably don't want to go that far, but you might join me through southern Utah out to Bryce Canyon, and then head home from there while I do the rest, or join me on the leg back so we can talk about that. I know you had some free days in September, and September is a nice time of year to go through southern Utah on a motorcycle. Let's see. Yeah, it's always helpful in the member chat if you put question at the start of your comment, so I know it's for me. Thank you, Phil, for doing that. Member Phil says, earlier mentioned that the defense offered 71 pages of jury instructions. Wasn't jury instructions discussed in a pretrial motions? If so, how does the defense get a second bite at the apple? The jury instruction debate pretrial was about the grand jury, not about the trial jury instructions. So the defense was arguing that the indictment was defective and should be dismissed because the jury instructions given to the grand jury on which they relied to arrive at an indictment were defective. They were not defective. So they lost on that argument. Now they're discussing what the jury instruction should be for the trial. And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning when we start up. So if you're here first thing in the morning, you'll get my jury instruction discussion. Both sides have submitted recommended jury instructions. The state jury instructions pretty much exactly model the prosecutor's jury instructions, model the state standardized jury instructions for New Mexico. They're like a carbon copy. The defense offered jury instructions have like hundreds of words added to the standard jury instructions. I don't see any way that gets approved by the judge. Judges don't like to vary from the standard jury instructions. And the defense is asking for a huge variance. So the defense is basically asking for the jury instructions they wish the grand jury had gotten. And the judge has already said no, those just aren't New Mexico jury instructions, what you're asking for. I think that's what you'll say here too. But I'll cover all that in the morning. And the reason both parties offered jury, like I think the states offered jury instructions are 50 pages. That's because there's a lot of like generic jury instructions that are given for every trial, right? What is a reasonable doubt? What is evidence? What evidence can you consider? How do you weigh evidence? How do you evaluate credibility? Only come to a verdict, based on what you hear in the courtroom, all that kind of boilerplate jury instruction. The jury instructions for the specific to this case would be specific to the criminal charge, involuntary manslaughter. That's where we begin to see some real variance. And the defense proposed jury instructions, their motion is 20 pages longer because they have to add all this language, and then they have to explain why they want the language added when it's not in the standard jury instructions. So, but we'll see all that tomorrow morning. Let's see. Somebody says Biden just called Zelensky Putin when introducing him at the NATO. Oh, dear Lord, at the NATO summit. I don't know if that's true or not, but would it surprise me? No, it would. It would sadly. It would not surprise me. Let's see. Chris says I was a detective and then went back to patrol. Interesting. I think there's a lot of variance across departments and how they do that. Let's see. Looking at the comments. Yeah, Bryce Canyon is nice. So I often do a ride from from Durango, Colorado, up into southern Utah. Glen Canyon, Grand Staircase, Escalante, Bryce Canyon. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful country. What do you think? I've done it every year for like 5 years now. I'm so spoiled. I'm so lucky. What do you think the defense team told Baldwin about how this would go? I think they've told him. I think they've done nothing but blow smoke up his ass. Because if he begins to suspect that they don't have confidence in a win, why would he keep them? He'd fire them and get people who believe and say they believe what he wants them to believe, right? So do I think they've been telling him the truth about his prospects? First of all, they have to know the truth. They may have deluded themselves into thinking they're gonna walk over Carrie Morrissey, because what is she? She's some backwoods criminal law defense attorney from backwoods New Mexico. We're from Manhattan. I got a trophy wife. I got a Porsche. I got a Lamborghini. I'm gonna walk all over her. New Mexico woman, criminal defense attorney. They didn't know they were walking into a wood chipper. So I think assuming they even know have a realistic appraisal of his chances, which they may not. Even if they know that, I don't think they've been telling him the truth. It's not in their interest. Yeah, Kyle says if they're half the a-holes he is, they've probably been telling him we'll run over those hicks down in New Mexico. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me in the least. Sheepdog says, Andrew, can we get a short made of your pregnancy test joke yesterday? I don't remember yesterday's joke. I made a pregnancy test joke today. Do I still have it? Yeah. I mean, you can screen capture it. I just fabricated that in the moment, obviously. Let's see. Okay, so that's all of that. Let me take a look at the super chats, and I'll take a look at Rumble rants, although no one ever seems to leave a Rumble rant. By the way, if you're on YouTube, I believe as you're exiting, if you're on the mobile YouTube app, that's when you can like and subscribe. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it. Very kind. Thank you very much. No more super chats and Rumble rants. Oh, I have so many more haters on Rumble than I do on YouTube. Or maybe I just don't see them on YouTube. No, Borkowski did the what was that guy's name? Theodore Edgecombe, right? Yeah, no, that wasn't Rittenhouse. The Rittenhouse lawyer is also the guy who did the Schroeder did that other case too, what appears to be a wrongful conviction case that I can never seem to find time to circle back to. I did the first 2 days of the trial. Anderson, right? The Anderson trial. I'll get back to that one of these days, I guess. Sorry. Just so many demands, so little time. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up now so I can start on the recap. The recap will be in just about an hour, 50 minutes, roughly 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So until then, I am going to sign off all of this and see you in about an hour. And then until then, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self-Defense. Stay safe.